is no reason why his divinity should be dependent on sexual chastity. If he were the Son of God, there is no reason why he should not have wed and begun a family. Underlying most Christian theology is the assumption that Jesus is God incarnate. In other words, God, taking pity on his creation, incarnated himself in that creation and assumed human form. By doing so, he would be able to claim himself at first hand, so to speak, with the human condition. He would experience at first hand the vicissitudes of human existence. He would learn to understand, in the most profound sense, what it means to be a man, to confront from a human standpoint the loneliness, the anguish, the helplessness, the status of manhood entails. By dint of becoming man, God would come to know man in a way that the Old Testament does not allow. Renouncing his Olympian aloofness and remoteness, he would partake directly of man's lot. By doing so, he would redeem man's lot, would validate and justify it by partaking of it, suffering from it, and eventually being sacrificed by it. The symbolic significance of Jesus is that he is God exposed to the spectrum of human experiences, exposed to the first-hand knowledge of what being a man entails. But could God, incarnate as Jesus, truly claim to be a man, to encompass the spectrum of human experience without coming close to the most basic, most elemental facets of the human condition? Did God claim to know the totality of human existence without confronting to such essential aspects of humanity as sexuality and paternity? We do not think so. In fact, we do not think the incarnating imagery symbolizes what it is intended to symbolize unless Jesus were married to the Father of children. The Jesus of the Gospel cannot establish. Christianity is ultimately incomplete, a God whose incarnation is only partial. The Jesus who emerged from our research enjoys, in our opinion, a much more valid claim to what Christianity would have it be. On the whole, then, we do not think we have compromised the will of Jesus. We do not think he has separated from the conclusions to which our research led us. From our investigations into his living and copy of Jesus, Jesus results both meaningful and comprehensible to modern men. We cannot point to one man and assert that he is Jesus' lineal descendant. Family trees bifurcate, subdivide, and in the course of centuries multiply into veritable forests. There are at least a dozen families in Britain and Europe today, with numerous collateral branches, who are of Merovingian lineage. These include the houses of Habsburg, Lorraine, present titular dukes of Lorraine, kings of Jerusalem, Planter, Luxembourg, Montpezat, Montesquieu, and various others. According to the Prior documents, this entire family in Britain is also allied to the bloodline, as are the various branches of the Stuarts. And the Devonshire family, among others, would seem to have been privy to the secret. Most of these houses would presumably claim a pedigree from Jesus, and the whole man, at some point in the future, is put forward as a new priest king. We do not know who he is, and several things of anything are clear. So far as we personally are concerned, Jesus' lineal descendants would not be any more divine, any more intrinsically miraculous than the rest of us. This attitude would undoubtedly be shared by a great many people today. We suspect it is shared by the Prior de Sion as well. Moreover, the revelation of an individual or group of individuals descended from Jesus would not shake the world in the way it might have done as recently as a century or two ago. Even if there were incontrovertible proof of such a lineage, many people would simply shrug and ask, so what? As a result, there would seem to be little point in the Prior de Sion's elaborate designs, unless those designs are in some crucial way linked with politics. Whatever the theological repercussions of our conclusions, there would seem quite clearly to be other repercussions as well, political repercussions with a potentially enormous impact affecting the thinking, the values, the institutions of the contemporary world in which we live. Certainly in the past, the various families of Merovingian descent were thoroughly steeped in politics, and their objectives included political power. This would also seem to have been true in the Prior de Sion and a number of his grand masters. There is no reason to assume that politics should not be equally important to both Sion and the bloodline today. If he Indeed, all the evidence suggests that Zion thinks in terms of the unity between what history called church and state and the union of secular and spiritual, sacred and profane. Politics and religion. In many of its documents, Zion asserts that the new king, in accordance with Merovingian tradition, would reign but not govern. In other words, he would be a priest king who functions primarily in a ritual or symbolic capacity. And the actual business of governing would be handled by someone else completely by the period of Zion. During the 19th century, the period of Zion, weapons of Freemasonry, healing, outlaw, and attempted to establish a revived and updated Holy Roman Empire. The Atlantic United States of Europe ruled simultaneously by the Habsburgs and by a radically reformed church. This enterprise was supported by the First World War and the fall of Europe's reigning dynasties. But it is not unreasonable to suppose that Zion's present objectives are basically similar, at least in their general outlines, to those of the American cowboy. Needless to say, our understanding of those objectives can only be speculative. But they would seem to include a geographic United States of Europe, and a pan-European confederation assembled into a modern empire and reigned over by a dynasty descended from Caesar. This dynasty was not only held by a known as political or secular power, but quite conceivably the throne of St. Peter as well. Under that supreme authority, there might then be an interlocking network of kingdoms or principalities connected by dynastic alliance and intermarriage upon the 20th century, feudal systems, but without the abuse usually associated with that term. Yet the actual process of governing was presumably reside with the period of Zion, which might take the form of six adherents entirely endowed with executive and/or legislative powers. A Europe of this sort will constitute a new and unified political force in international affairs, and at least whose status would ultimately be comparable to that of the Soviet Union or the United States. Indeed, it might well emerge stronger than either, because it would rest on deep-rooted spiritual and emotional foundations, rather than on abstract, theoretical, or ideological ones. It would appeal not only to man's head, but to his heart as well. It would draw its strength from tapping the collective psyche of Western Europe, awakening the fundamental religious impulse. Such a program may well appear quixotic, but history by now should have taught us not to underestimate the potential of the collective psyche and the power to be obtained by harnessing it. A few years ago, it would have seemed inconceivable that a religious zealot without an army of his own, without a political party behind him, without anything at his disposal save charisma and the religious hunger of a people, could single-handedly topple the modern and superbly equipped edifice of the Shah's regime in Iran. And yet that is precisely what the Ayatollah Khomeini managed to do. We are not, of course, sounding the warning. We are not explicitly or explicitly comparing the period of Zion to the Ayatollah. We have no reason to think Zion sinister, as one might condemn a god of Iran. But the demigod of Iran bears eloquent witness to the deep-rooted character, the energy, the potential power of a man's religious impulse, and the ways in which that impulse can be channeled to political ends. Such ends do not entail an abuse of authority. They may be as laudable as those of Churchill or de Gaulle were during the Second World War. The religious impulse can be channeled in any of innumerable directions. It is a source of immense potential power, and it is all too often ignored or overlooked by modern governments founded on, and often founded to reason alone. The religious impulse reflects a profound psychological and emotional need. And psychological and emotional needs are every bit as real as the need for bread, for shelter, for material security. We know that the Prayer to Zion is not a lunatic fringe organization. We know it is well financed and includes, or, at any rate, commands sympathy from men in responsible and influential positions in politics, economics, media, the arts. We know that since 1956 it has increased its membership more than fourfold, as if it were mobilizing or preparing for something. And Planter told us personally that in his order will work into a more or less precise timetable. We also know that since 1956 Zion has been making certain information available, discreetly, tantalizingly, in piecemeal fashion, and measuring quantities just sufficient to provide alluring hints. Those hints provoked this book. If the Prior de Sion intends to show its cards, the time is right for it to do so. The political systems and ideologies which, in the early years of the last century, seemed to promise so much have virtually all displayed their new tendency. Communism, socialism, fascism, capitalism, Western-style democracy have all, in one way or another, betrayed their promise, jaundiced their adherents, and failed to fulfill the dreams they engendered. Because of their small-mindedness, lack of perspective, and abuse of office, politicians no longer inspire confidence, only distrust. In the West today there is increasing cynicism, dissatisfaction, and disillusion. There is increasing psychic stress, anxiety, and despair. But there is also an intensifying quest for meaning, for emotional fulfillment, for a spiritual dimension to our lives, for something in which genuinely to believe. There is a longing for a renewed sense of the sacred that amounts, in effect, to a full-scale religious revival, exemplified by the proliferation of sects and cults, for example, and the swelling tide of fundamentalism in the United States. There is also, increasingly, a desire for a true leader, not a Führer, but a species of wise and benign spiritual figure. Priest-king, in whom mankind can safely repose its trust. Our civilization has sated itself with materialism and in the process become aware of a more profound hunger. It is now beginning to look elsewhere, seeking the fulfillment of emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs. Such an atmosphere would seem eminently conducive to the Prior de Sion's objectives. It places Sion in the position of being able to offer an alternative to existing social and political systems. Such an alternative is hardly likely to constitute utopia or the New Jerusalem. But to the extent that it satisfies needs which existing systems do not even acknowledge, it could well prove immensely attractive. There are many devout Christians who do not hesitate to interpret the apocalypse as nuclear holocaust. How might the advent of Jesus' lineal descendant be interpreted? To a receptive audience, it might be a kind of second coming. The end. Postscript. Paperback edition. Since the publication of our book, much new material has been forthcoming. Some readers, with extremely important new information, have been open and generous in passing it on to us. Others have preferred to be cryptic, enigmatic, and elliptical, speaking mysteriously of unspecified knowledge they possess, or unspecified research they have done which has led to equally unspecified conclusions of a startling, amazing, shattering, definitive nature. Such hints may indeed attest to new and valid material or to an irrelevant intellectual ingenuity and a need for spurious mystification. In any case, we have received letters from people so aggressively overcautious and secretive that we wonder why they bothered to write us at all. Their shroud of obscurity and opacity seems to have been generated by a fear, verging sometimes on paranoia, that they may be deprived unscrupulously of the fruits of their work, that we might steal the results of their research, or their decipherments, or the treasures they are convinced they have located, and leave them unacknowledged, unrecognized, unrewarded. In the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, we have presented our material openly. We have also supplied information about relevant sources in order that others may be stimulated to research of their own. The time for mystification is now past. We hope that readers who have what they consider worthwhile material will be as forthcoming as we have tried to be. We urge them, if possible, to publish it themselves. Alternatively, we request them to make their findings available to us. We hereby publicly state that no such material will be published, used, or exploited by us unless some prior and mutually acceptable arrangement has been concluded with those who provide it. We also publicly state that all such material, if used by us in any way, will be duly acknowledged in advance if it is likewise mutually acceptable. We would also like to state that we have no interest beyond the historical and archaeological in any such an uncovered connection with General Shadow. We wish only to observe and record such discoveries as and when they might be made. Any passports accruing from any treasure would remain with those whose information leads to the location of the relevant site.
I know that's fucking.
According According to the prior documents, Jean Gizers was Sion's first independent grandmaster, assuming his position after the cutting of the elk and the separation from the Knights Templar in 1188. He was born in 1133 and died in 1220. He was at least nominal lord of the fortress of Gizers in Normandy, where meetings were traditionally convened between English and French kings and where, in 1188, a furious squabble did privilege involved the cutting of an elk. Until 1193, Jean was a vassal of the King of England, Henry II, and Richard I. He also possessed property in England, Sussex, and the manor of Pitchfield in Hampshire. According to the prior documents, he met with Thomas à Becket in 1169. No independent record of this meeting survives, but Becket was in Gizers in 1169 and must have had some contact with the lord of the fortress. Marie de Saint Clair. Information on Marie de Saint Clair was even more meager than information on Jean de Gizers. Born around 1192, she was descended from Henry de Saint Clair, Baron of Roslin in Scotland, who accompanied Godefroy de Bouillon on the First Crusade. Roslin itself was situated not far from the Templars' major preceptory in Scotland, and Roslin Chapel, built in the 15th century, became vandaled with Rose-Croix and Freemasonry legends. Marie de Saint Clair's grandmother married into the French Chaumont family, as did Jean de Gizers. The genealogies of the Chaumont, Gizers, and Saint Clair families were thus closely intertwined. There is some evidence that Marie de Saint Clair was in fact Jean de Gizers' second wife, but we could not confirm this definitely. According to the genealogies in the prior documents, Marie's mother was one Isabel Levi's. This surname, which would seem to be of Judean origin, occurs frequently in the Lombard, where there were Jewish settlements dating from before the Christian epoch. Some of the families of Gizers and in Saint Clair included the Laundry Logan and Rico Leonard Gizers. Young Gizers was Gizer's grandson, born in 1219. He had already encountered his name in connection with the mysterious head found in the Templars' Paris preceptory after the arrests in 1307. Apart from this, however, we found only one external mention of him on a deed dated 1244, which states that he was a knight. According to the genealogies in the prior documents, his sister married one Jean de Plantard. The prior documents also state that Guillaume was inducted into the Order of the Ship in the Double Crescent in 1269. This order was created by Louis the Ninth St. Louis for noble shipbuilding. Accompanying him on the ill-fated Sixth Crusade. Guillaume de Gizers was a member of it, and must therefore have been with St. Louis during the campaign in Egypt. Edouard de Bar. Born in 1302, Edouard Conti de Bar was a grandson of Edward I of England and the nephew of Edward II. He was descended from a family which had been influential in the islands in Merovingian times and was almost certainly connected with the Merovingian dynasty. Edouard's father married into the House of Lorraine, and the genealogies of Bar and Lorraine subsequently became closely intertwined. In 1308, at the age of 6, Edouard accompanied the Duke of Lorraine into battle, was captured and not ransomed until 1314. On attaining his majority, he purchased the same year the externate from one of his uncles, Jean de Bar. In 1324, he was allied in military operations with Barry de Lorraine and Jean de Luxembourg, and the House of Luxembourg, like that of Lorraine, would seem to be of Merovingian blood. In 1336, Edouard died in a shipwreck off the coast of Cyprus. No independent source could provide us with any link between Edouard de Bar and Guillaume de Gizers. According to the genealogies in the prior documents, however, Edouard was grandnephew of Guillaume's wife Yolande de Bar. While we could not confirm this affiliation, we found nothing to contradict it. As the prior documents maintain, Edouard assumed Sion's grandmastership in 1307, he would have done so at the age of 5. This is not necessarily improbable if he was captured on the battlefield at the age of 6. Until Edouard attained his majority, the county of Bar was governed by his uncle Jean de Bar, who acted as regent. It is possible that Jean acted in the capacity of regent Grand Master as well. But there would seem to be no sense in the selection of a 5-year-old boy as Grand Master, unless the Grand Mastership was in some way linked to heredity or blood descent. Jean de Bar. Jean de Bar was born in 1295, the older sister of Edouard. She was thus a granddaughter of Edward I of England and a niece of Edward II. In 1310, at the age of 15, she was married to the Earl of Warren, Surrey, Sussex and Strathern, and divorced from him some 5 years later. After he was excommunicated for adultery, Jean continued to live in England, however, and though we could find no detailed record of her activities, she seems to have enjoyed extremely cordial relations with the English throne. She seems to have had similar relations with the King of France, who in 1345 invited her back to the continent where she became regent of the County of Bar. In 1353, despite the 100 Years' War and the consequent hostility between England and France, Jean returned to England. When the French monarch was captured at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356 and imprisoned in London, Jean was allowed to comfort and minister to him. During his subsequent prolonged incarceration, Jean is said to have been his mistress, although both were elderly at the time. She died in London in 1361. According to the Freer documents, Jean de Bar presided over the Freer de Sion until 1351, 10 years before her death. She thus appears to be the only figure on the list of Grand Masters to have resigned, abdicated, or been deposed from her position. Jean de St. Clair. Our research has revealed virtually nothing about Jean de St. Clair, who seems to have been a very minor figure indeed. He was born around 1329 and descended from the French houses of Chaumont and St. Clair Sorevia. According to the genealogies in the Freer documents, his grandfather was married to Jean de Bar's aunt. This relationship is certainly tenuous. Nevertheless, it would seem to suggest that the Grand Mastership of Sion was still circulating exclusively within a network of interlinked families. Blanche d'Evers. Blanche d'Evers was in fact Blanche de Navarre, daughter of the King of Navarre. She was born in 1332. From her father, she inherited the counties of Longueville and Every, both immediately adjacent to Isers, and in 1359 she became Countess of Isers as well. 10 years previously, she had married Philippe, King of France. She almost certainly knew Jean de Bar. She spent much of her life at the Chateau of Neufville near Isers and died there in 1398. According to numerous legends, Blanche was immersed in alchemical studies and experimentation, and traditions speaks of laboratories at certain of her chateaux. She is said to have possessed a priceless alchemical work, produced in the Languedoc during the 14th century, but based on a manuscript dating from the last days of the Merovingian dynasty 700 years before. She is also rumored to have been a personal patron of Nicholas Flamel. Nicholas Flamel. Flamels is the first name on the list of Grand Masters not to be affiliated by blood with the genealogies in the Freer documents. And with him, the Grand Mastership of Sion seems to have ceased being exclusively a family sinecure. Flamel was born around 1330 and worked for a time as a scrivener or copyist in Paris. By virtue of his occupation, many rare books passed through his hands, and he acquired proficiency in painting, poetry, mathematics, and architecture. He also acquired an interest in alchemy and Kabbalistic and Hermetic thought. Around 1361, Flamel, according to his own account, happened upon the alchemical text used to transform his life. Its complete title is both puzzling and interesting: The Sacred Book of Abraham the Jew, Prince Priest Levite. Astrologer and philosopher to that tribe accused by the wrath of God were dispersed amongst the Gauls. His work subsequently became one of the most famous in Western esoteric traditions. The original is said to have been deposited in the Arsenal Library in Paris. Reproductions of it have been assiduously, religiously, and it would seem faintly studied by successive generations of would-be adepts. According to his own account, Flammel pored over the book with no greater success for 21 years. At last, on a journey to Spain in 1382, he claims to have met a converted Jew in Lyon who elucidated the text for him. On returning to Paris, he applied what he had learned and is said to have performed his first successful alchemical transmutation at noon on January 17th. The date that recurs so persistently in connection with Saunier and Rennes-le-Chateau. Whether Flammel's account is accurate or not, the fact remains that he became phenomenally wealthy. By the end of his life, he owned more than 30 houses and tracts of land in Paris alone. At the same time, however, he seems to have been a modest man who did not revel in power and lavished much of his wealth on good works. By 1413, he had founded and endowed 14 hospitals, 7 churches, and 3 chapels in Paris, and a comparable number in Bologna, the old Comte of Godefroy Anne's father. This altruism, perhaps even more than his dazzling success, endeared him to posterity. As late as the 18th century, he was revered by men like Sir Isaac Newton, who painstakingly read through his works, copiously annotated them, and even copied one of them out by hand. René d'Anjou. He discovered no recorded contact between Flammel and René d'Anjou. At the same time, however, René himself gave us sufficient material to ponder. Although little known today, he was one of the most important figures in the years immediately preceding the Renaissance. Born in 1408, he came in the course of his life to hold an awesome array of titles. Among the most important were Count of Bar, Count of Provence, Count of Piedmont, Count of Guise, Duke of Calabria, Duke of Anjou, Duke of Lorraine, King of Hungary, King of Naples and Sicily, King of Aragon, Valencia, Majorca, and Sardinia, and perhaps most resonant of all, King of Jerusalem. This latter status was, of course, purely titular. Nevertheless, it invoked a continuity extending back to Godefroy de Bouillon and was acknowledged by other European potentates. One of René's daughters in 1445 married Henry VI of England and became a prominent figure in the Wars of the Roses. According to the Prior documents, René became Grand Master of Sion in 1418 at the age of 10, and his uncle, Louis Cardinal de Bar, is said to have exercised the Regency Grand Mastership until 1428. Our research revealed that René was inducted into an order of some kind in 1418 Lord du Livrier Blanc White Greyhound, but we discovered no further information of consequence about it. Certainly it might have been Sion under another name. Sometime between 1420 and 1422, the Cardinal of Lorraine created another order, Order de la Fidelite, and René was admitted as one of the original members. In 1448, René established an order of his own, the Order of the Crescent. René himself described the Order of the Crescent as a revived version of the old Order of the Ship and the Double Crescent, of which he owned the Gazers. He was a member a century and a half before. The original Knights of the Crescent included Francesco Sforza, Milan and Father Leonardo da Vinci's patron, the Count of Lennon, whose descendant, according to the Prior documents, compiled the genealogies and the dossier secrets, and one very sort of the important fiefdom in Lorraine dating from there to These individuals were appointed by René and comprised of the most specific the Order of the Garter in England and the Order of the Golden Fleece in Burgundy. But for reasons that remain unclear, the Order of the Crescent is ecclesiastical disorder and was suppressed by the Pope. It is from René d'Anjou that the modern Counts of Lorraine, symbol of the three turned forces of the Second World War, ultimately derived. When he became Duke of Lorraine, the now familiar cross with its two horizontal bars became his personal device. Violani de Bar. Born around 1428, Violani de Bar was René d'Anjou's daughter. In 1445, she was married to Harry Lord of Sion by Convent, one of the original knights of René's Order of the Crescent. Legend theories that Violani spent most of her life in Sion by Convent under her auspices was descended from a local pilgrimage center to a sacred site for the whole of Lorraine. In the distant pagan past, the place had already enjoyed such status, and a statue of Rosemouth, an old Gallo-Teutonic mother goddess, was subsequently found there. Even in early Christian times, the site was regarded as holy, although its name then was Mount Semida, implying something more Judaic than Christian. During the Merovingian epoch, a statue of the Virgin had been erected there, and in 1070, the ruling Count of Baudemont had publicly proclaimed himself vassal of the Queen of Heaven. The Virgin of Sion was officially declared sovereign of the county of Baudemont. Festivals were held in her honor every day, and she was acknowledged protectress of all Lorraine. Recently fielded a charter dating from 1396, which pertains to a special chivalric confraternity based on the name. The confraternity is the Chevaliers of Sion. It was repeatedly traced one its origins to the old abbey on Mount Sion just outside Jerusalem. By the 15th century, however, Sion Baudemont seems to have lost some of its significance. Giovanni are restored with something of its former glory. Giovanni's son, Rene, subsequently became Duke of Lorraine. On his parents' instructions, he was educated in Florence, thus becoming well-versed in the esoteric tradition and orientation of the academies. His tutor was Giorgio Antonio Vespucci, one of Botticelli's chief patrons and sponsors. Sandro Filippi, better known as Botticelli, Sandro Filippi was born in 1444. With the exception of Nicholas Flamel, his is the first name on the list of Sion's alleged grandmasters not to be directly affiliated with the families whose genealogies figure in the higher documents. At the same time, however, he seems to have enjoyed an extremely close rapport with some of those families. Among his patrons were the Medici, the Este, the Gonzaga, and the Vespucci. Giorgio Antonio Vespucci, patron of Botticelli, was teacher of Violante Tavari's son, the future Duke of Lorraine. He studied in Florence. Botticelli himself studied under Filippi in Montana, both of whom had been patronized by Rene d'Anjou. He also studied under Verrocchio, an alchemist and exponent of Hermetic thought whose other pupils included Leonardo da Vinci. Like most people, we do not at first think of Botticelli as a self-esoteric term. Norwegian scholars of the Renaissance such as him, for instance, Francis Yates, have effectively argued an esoteric presupposition of him, and we defer to the persuasiveness of their conclusions. Botticelli thus seems to have been an esotericist, and the greater part of his work reflects an embodiment of esoteric principles. One of the earliest known esoteric terms to describe Botticelli are his Buddhist content. In the famous statement Trinitarians, among many other things, an elaboration on the theme of Arcadia and the esoteric underground stream. Leonardo da Vinci, born in 1452, Leonardo was well acquainted with Botticelli in large part through their joint apprenticeship at Verrocchio. Like Botticelli, he was patronized by the Medici, the Este, and the Gonzaga. He was also patronized by Ludovico Sforza, son of Francesco Sforza, one of Rene d'Anjou's closest friends and an original member of the Order of the Crescent. Leonardo's esoteric interests and orientations, like Botticelli's, have by now been well established. Francis Yates, in conversation with one of our researchers, described him as an early Rosicrucian. But in Leonardo's case, esotericism would appear to extend even further than in Botticelli. Even Vasari, his biographer and contemporary, describes him as the most cynical cast of mind. What precisely might have constituted his heresy remains unclear. During the last few years, however, certain authorities ascribe to him an anti-heretical belief that Jesus had a sin. Certainly there is evidence for this contention in a cartoon sketch called The Virgin with St. John the Baptist and St. Matthew in the famous Last Supper with in fact, two virtually identical Christs. But there is no indication of whether the doctrine of Jesus' sin is to be taken literally or symbolically. In 1515 and 1517, Leonardo, as a military engineer, was attached to the army of Charles de Montpensier and the Bourbon, Constable of France, Viceroy of Languedoc and Milan. In 1518, he established himself at the Chateau of Cloud, and again seems to have been in proximity to the constable, who was living nearby Amboise. Many of our readers sent in fragments of intriguing information. One such pertained to Leonardo. In the first edition of Lives of the Artists, published in 1550, Vasari wrote that Leonardo won a doctrine so heretical that he depended no more on any religion. This sentence was excised from the second edition of the book, which appeared in 1568, and from all subsequent editions thereafter. But all subsequent editions, including the used for the modern paperback translation, report that Leonardo, when old and infirm, confessed and repented to, and immediately before his death received the holy sacraments. This is a giveaway. Without the sentence excised from the first edition, one would not know what it was he confessed and repented. One would not even have any reason to think he confessed and repented anything in particular. Connettable de Bourbon. Charles de Montpensier and de Bourbon, Duke of Châtellerault, Constable of France, was probably the single most powerful lord in France in the early 16th century. Born in 1490, he was the son of Claire de Gonzaga and his sister Mary, the Duke of Lorraine, grandson of Yolande de Bar and great-grandson of René d'Anjou. Among Charles's personal entourage was one Jean de Joyeuse, who, through marriage, had become Lord of Pisa, then the Chateau in Arques, near where the tomb identical to the one in Poussin's painting stands. As Viceroy of Milan, Charles was in contact with Leonardo da Vinci, and this contact seems to have continued later in Blois. In 1521, however, Charles incurred the displeasure of Francois I of France and was forced to abandon his estates and flee the country incognito. He found a refuge with Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, who became a commander of the Imperial Army. In this capacity, he defeated and captured the French king at the Battle of Pavia in 1525. 2 years later, he died while besieging Rome. Ferdinand de Ferranti de Gonzaga, as he is more commonly known, was born in 1507, the son of the Duke of Mantua and of Isabel d'Este, one of Leonardo's most zealous patrons. His primary title was Count of Guastalla. In 1527, he assisted his cousin, Charles de Montpensier and de Bourbon, in the latter's military operations. Some years later, he seems to have been covertly in league with Francois de Lorraine, Duke of Guise, who came within a hair's breadth of seizing the French throne. Like virtually all the Gonzaga of Mantua, Ferranti was an assiduous devotee of esoteric thought. At the same time, he also confronted us with the only fragment of ostensibly wrong information we encountered in whole of the clear documents. According to the list of Sion's Grand Masters in Dossier's secrets, Ferranti presided over the order until his death in 1575. According to independent sources, however, he is believed to have died in Brussels in 1557. The circumstances surrounding his death are extremely vague, and it is possible, of course, that he did not die in 1557 at all, but merely went to ground. On the other hand, the date in the dossier's secrets may be a genuine error. What is more, Ferranti had a son, Cesar, who did die in 1575, and who may somehow have become confused with his father deliberately or otherwise. The point is that we found no other such apparently glaring inaccuracies in the freer documents, even when the subject was far more obscure and less susceptible to contradiction from independent sources. It seemed almost inconceivable to us that an error in this particular instance could occur through mere carelessness or oversight. On the contrary, it was almost as if the error, although flagrant in the usual accepted accounts, was intended to convey something. Louis de Nevers, was in fact Louis de Gonzaga. Born in 1539, he was the nephew of Ferranti de Gonzaga, his predecessor on the list of Sion's Grand Masters. His brother married into the Habsburg family, and his daughter married the Duke of Longueville, a title formerly held by Blanche de Nevers. His great-niece married the Duke of Lorraine and devoted considerable interest to the old sacred site of Sion-Vaudemont. In 1622, she had a special cross installed there, and in 1627 a religious house and school were founded. During the Wars of Religion, Louis de Nevers was closely allied to the House of Lorraine and its cadet branch, the House of Guise, who effectively exterminated the old Valois dynasty of France and nearly obtained the throne for themselves. In 1584, for example, Louis signed a treaty with the Duke of Guise and the Cardinal of Lorraine, pledging mutual opposition to Henri III of France. Like his colleagues, however, he became reconciled to Henri IV and served as superintendent of finances to the new monarch. While acting in this capacity, he would have functioned in close contact with Robert Blood's father. Sir Thomas Blood was treasurer of the military contingent sent by Elizabeth I of England to support the French king. Louis Nevers, like all the Gonzaga, was deeply versed in esoteric tradition and is believed to have associated with Giordano Bruno, who, according to Francis Yates, was involved in certain secret hermetic societies which anticipated the Rosicrucians. In 1582, for example, Louis was in England consorting with Sir Philip Sidney, author of Arcadia, and John Dee, the foremost English esotericist of his age. A year later, Bruno visited Oxford and consorted with the same people, and Francis Yates maintains furthered the activities of their clandestine organization. Robert Flood. Born in 1574, Robert Flood inherited John Dee's mantle as England's leading exponent of esoteric thought. He wrote and published prolifically on a broad spectrum of esoteric subjects and developed one of the most comprehensive formulations of Hermetic philosophy ever written. Francis Yates suggests that some of his work may be the seal on the secret code of a Hermetic secret society. Although Flood himself never claimed to be a member of the Rosicrucians, then causing a sensation on the continent, he warmly endorsed them, declaring that the highest good was the Magia, Pippa, and Althea, and the Brothers of the Rosy Cross. At the same time, Flood rose to an esteemed position in the London College of Physicians, and his friends included William Harvey, who discovered the circulation of the blood. Flood also enjoyed the favor of James I and Charles I, both of whom granted him rent from lands in Suffolk. Flood's father had been associated with Louis Nevers. Flood himself was educated at Oxford, where John Dee and Sir Philip Sidney seem to have established an enclave of esoteric interests a few years before. Between 1596 and 1602, Flood traveled extensively in Europe, consorting with many people subsequently involved in the Rosicrucian movement. Among these was one Janus Bruder, a close personal friend of Johann Valentin Andrea. In 1602, Flood received an interesting and, for our purposes, significant commission. He was specifically called to Marseille to act as personal tutor to the sons of the Duke of Guise, particularly Charles, the young Duke of Guise. His association with Charles appears to have continued as late as 1620. In 1610, Charles, Duke of Guise, married Henriette Catherine de Joyeuse. The latter's possessions included Louisa at the foot of the mountain on which Rennes Chateau is situated. And they included Arquette's side of the tomb identical to the tomb in Poussin's painting. Some 20 years later, in 1631, the Duke of Guise, after conspiring against the French throne, went into voluntary exile in Italy, where he was soon joined by his wife. In 1640, he died. But his wife was not allowed to return to France until she consented to sell Louisa and Arquette to the crown. 3. Johann Valentin Andrea. Andrea, the son of a Lutheran pastor and theologian, was born in 1586 in Württemberg, which bordered on the Rhine and the flatbed of the Rhine. As early as 1610, he was traveling about Europe and was rumored to be a member of a secret society of Hermetic or esoteric initiates. In 1614, he was ordained deacon of a small town near Stuttgart and seems to have remained there unscathed through the turmoil of the 30 Years' War and 1648 that followed. Robert Boyle. Robert Boyle was born in 1627, the youngest son of the Earl of Cork. Later he would be offered a peerage of his own and declined it. He was educated at Eton, where his provost, Sir Henry Watson, was closely connected with the Rosicrucian entourage of Frederick of the Palatinate. In 1639, Boyle embarked on a prolonged European tour. He spent some time in Florence, where the Medici, resisting papal pressures, continued to extend support for esotericists and scientists, including Galileo. And he passed 21 months in Geneva, where he acquired a number of esoteric interests, including demonology. During his sojourn in Geneva he obtained a work, The Devil of Macedon, which he had translated by one Pierre Dumoulin, who was to become a lifelong friend. Dumoulin's father was personal chaplain to Catherine de Bar, wife of Henry de Lorraine, Duke of Bar. Subsequently, the elder Dumoulin obtained the assiduous patronage of Henri de la Tour d'Auver and Viscount of Turenne and Duke of Bouillon. On his return to England in 1645, Boyle immediately established contact with the circle of Samuel Hartlib, Andreas' close friend and correspondent. In letters dated 1646 and 1647, he speaks repeatedly of invisible college. He declares, for example, that the cornerstones of the invisible are, as they term themselves, the philosophical college, do now and then honor me with their company. By 1654, Boyle was at Oxford, where he consorted with John Logan, former chaplain to Frederick of the Palatinate. In 1660, Boyle was among the first public figures to offer allegiance to the newly restored Stuarts, and Charles II became patron of the Royal Society. In 1668, he established himself in London, living with his sister, who was related by marriage to John Dury, another friend and correspondent of Andrea. At his London premises, Boyle received numerous distinguished visitors, including Cosmo III de' Medici, subsequently ruler of Florence and Grand Duke of Tuscany. During these years, Boyle's two closest friends were Isaac Newton and John Locke. He is said to have taught Newton the secrets of alchemy. In any case, the two of them met regularly to discuss the subject and study alchemical works. But, in the meantime, shortly after making Boyle's acquaintance, embarked for a lengthy stay in the south of France. He is known to have made special visits to the graves of Nostradamus and René d'Anjou. He is known to have wandered in the vicinity of Toulouse, Marquesau, Narbonne, and quite conceivably Rennes-le-Chateau. He is known to have associated with the Duchess of Guise.
This
He is
card's like
known to
half
have
a
studied
side.
Inquisition
It's
reports
strange.
on the Cathars, as well as the history of the legends according to which the Magdalene brought the Holy Grail to Marseille. In 1676, he visited the Magdalene's alleged residence at St. Ouen. While Locke explored the Languedoc, Boyle maintained a luminous correspondence with the continent. Among his papers there are letters comprising half of a sustained exchange with an elusive and otherwise unknown individual in France, one Georges Pierre, quite possibly a pseudonym. These letters deal extensively with alchemy and alchemical experimentation. More important, however, they speak of Boyle's membership of secret hermetic societies, which also included the Duke of Savoy and Dumoulin. Between 1675 and 1677, Boyle published two ambitious alchemical treatises, incandescence and quicksilver with a gold and a historical account of the degradation of gold. In 1689, he published an official statement declaring he could not receive visitors on certain days which he had set aside for alchemical experimentation. This experimentation, he wrote, was to comply with my former intention to leave a kind of hermetic legacy to the studious disciples of that art and to deliver candidly in the annexed papers some processes, chemical and medical, that are less simple and plain than those fairly luciferous ones I have been wont to effect and of a more difficult and elaborate kind than those I have hitherto published and more of a kind to the noblest hermetic secrets as Talmud styles and Arcana Majora. For he is that he intends to speak as plainly as he can, though the full complete uses are not mentioned, partly because, in spite of my philanthropy, I was engaged to secrecy. 5. The annex paper to which Boyle alludes was never found. It may well have passed into the hands of Locke or more likely Newton. On his death in 1691, Boyle entrusted all his other papers to these two private hands, as well as samples of the mysterious red powder which figured prominently in much of Boyle's correspondence and in his alchemical experiments. Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton was born in Lincolnshire in 1642, descended from ancient Scottish nobility. He himself insisted, although no one seems to have taken this claim very seriously. He was educated at Cambridge and elected to the Royal Society in 1672 and made Boyle's acquaintance for the first time in the following year. In 1689-90, he became associated with John Locke and an elusive, enigmatic individual named Nicholas Fadio de Fulio. He descended from Phoenician Aristocrats, as the peculiar seems to have brought with the Cavalier enthusiasts to Europe at this time. On occasion, he appears to have worked as a spy, usually against Louis XIV of France. He also appears to have been on intimate terms with every important scientist of the age. And at the time of his appearance in England, he was Queen's single closest friend. For at least the next decade, their two names were inextricably linked. In 1696, Newton became warden of the Royal Mint and was subsequently instrumental in fixing the gold standard. In 1703, he was elected president of the Royal Society. Around this time, he also became friendly with the young French Protestant refugee Jean des, who was one of the Royal Society's two curators of experiments. In the years that followed, des became one of the leading figures in the astonishing proliferation of Freemasonry throughout Europe. He was associated with leading Masonic figures like James Anderson, the Chevalier Ramsay, and Charles Radcliffe. And in 1731, as master of the Masonic Lodge at The Hague, he presided over the initiation of the first European prince to become a member of the crown. This prince was Francois, Duke of Lorraine, who, after his marriage to Maria Theresa of Austria, became Holy Roman Emperor. There is no record of him himself having been a Freemason. At the same time, however, he was a member of a semi-Masonic institution, the Gentlemen's Club of Spalding, which included such notables as Alexander Pope. Moreover, certain of his attitudes and works reflect interests shared by Masonic figures of the period. Like many Masonic authors, for example, he esteemed Noah more than Moses as the ultimate source of esoteric wisdom. As early as 1689, he had embarked on what he considered one of his most important works, the study of ancient monarchies. This work, the chronology of ancient kingdoms amended, attempted to establish the origins of the institution of kingship, as well as the primacy of Israel over other cultures of antiquity. According to Newton, ancient Judaism had been a repository of divine knowledge, which had subsequently been diluted, corrupted, and largely lost. Nevertheless, he believed that he had filtered down to high-fat, reduced music in the spheres he regarded as a metaphor for the law of gravity. In his attempt to formulate a precise scientific methodology for dating events of both scripture and classical myth, he employed Jason's quest for the golden fleece as a pivotal event. And like other Masonic and esoteric writers, he interpreted the text as an alchemical metaphor. He also endeavored to discern hermetic correspondences or correlations between music and architecture. And like many Masons, he ascribed great significance to the configuration and dimensions of Solomon's temple. The dimensions and configuration of the temple he believed to conceal alchemical formulas, and he believed the ancient ceremonies in the temple that have involved alchemical processes. Such preoccupations on Newton's part were something of a revelation to us. Certainly they do not concur with his image as it is promulgated in our own century, the image of the scientist who once and for all established the separation of natural philosophy from theology. In fact, however, Newton, more than any other scientist of his age, was steeped in Hermetic texts and in his own attitudes reflected Hermetic traditions. A deeply religious person, he was obsessed by the search for a divine unity and network of correspondence as inherent in nature. This search led him into an exploration of sacred geometry and numerology, a study of the intrinsic properties of shape and measure. By virtue of his association with oil, he was also a practicing alchemist who, in fact, attributed a paramount importance to his alchemical work. 6. In addition to personally annotated copies of the Rosicrucian Manifestos, his library included more than 100 alchemical works. One of these, a volume by Nicholas Flamel, he had laboriously copied in his own hand. Newton's preoccupation with alchemy continued all his life. He maintained a luminous and cryptic correspondence on the subject with oil, rock, Mario de Tulier, and others. One letter even has certain key words excised. If Newton's scientific interests were less orthodox than he had at first imagined, so were his religious views. He was militarily, albeit quietly, hostile to the idea of the Trinity. He also wrote mediated and fashionable piece of his time, which produced almost to a vast mechanical machine constructed by a celestial engineer. She questioned the divinity of Jesus and avidly collected all manuscripts pertaining to the issue. He doubted the complete authenticity of the New Testament, believing certain passages to be corruptions interpolated in the 5th century. He was deeply intrigued by some of the early Gnostic heresies and wrote a study of one of them. Newton also displayed a striking and surprising sympathy for the Campusards or prophets of Sudan, who shortly after 1705 began appearing in London. So-called because of their white tunics, the Campusards, like the Cathars before them, had arisen in the south of France. Like the Cathars, they were vehemently opposed to Roman stressed the supremacy of gnosis or direct knowledge over faith. Like the Cathars, they queried Jesus' divinity. And like the Cathars, they had been brutally suppressed by military force in effect an 18th century Albigensian crusade. Driven out of the Languedoc, the heretics found refuge in Geneva and London. A few weeks before his death, he was recruited by a few intimate friends to systematically bring numerous boxes of manuscripts and personal papers. With considerable surprise, his contemporaries noted that he did not on his deathbed request last rites. Charles Radcliffe. From the 16th century, the Radcliffes had been an influential Northumbrian family. In 1688, shortly before he was deposed, James II had created them Earls of Derwentwater. Charles Radcliffe himself was born in 1693. His mother was an illegitimate daughter of Charles II by the King's mistress, Moll Davis. Radcliffe was thus, on his mother's side, of royal blood, a grandson of Charles II. He was cousin to Bonnie Prince Charlie and to George Lee, Earl of Lichfield, another illegitimate grandson of the Stuart King. Not surprisingly, therefore, Radcliffe devoted much of his life to the Stuart cause. Charles de Lorraine. Born in 1712, Charles de Lorraine was Francois' brother and junior by 4 years. It is probable that both brothers had been exposed in boyhood to a Jacobite influence, for their father had offered protection and refuge at Bar-le-Duc to the exiled Stuarts. In 1736, when Francois married Maria Theresa, Charles became brother-in-law to the future Austrian Empress. 8 years later, in 1744, he consolidated this relationship by marrying Maria Theresa's sister, Marie-Anne. In the same year, he was appointed Governor-General of the Austrian Netherlands, now Belgium, and Commander-in-Chief of the Austrian Army. Francois, on his marriage, had formally renounced all claim to Lorraine, which was entrusted to a French puppet. In exchange, he received the Archduchy of Tuscany. Charles, however, adamantly refused to acknowledge this transaction, refused to renounce his claim to Lorraine. Given Francois' abdication, he was thus, in effect, titular Duke of Lorraine. And in 1742, he advanced with an army of 70,000 troops to recapture his native soil. He would most likely have done so had he not been obliged to divert his army to Bohemia in order to thwart a French invasion. In the military operations that followed, Charles proved himself a skilled commander. Today, he would no doubt be regarded as one of the better generals of his age, were it not his misfortune to be pitted repeatedly against Frederick the Great. It was against Charles that Frederick won one of his most dazzling and decisive victories, the Battle of Leuthen in 1757. And yet Frederick regarded Charles as a worthy and redoubtable adversary, and spoke of him only in glowing terms. Following his defeat at Leuthen, Charles was relieved of command by Maria Theresa and retired to his capital of Brussels. Here he established himself as a patron of the arts and assembled a glittering court around him, an elegant, gracious, and highly cultivated court which became a center for literature, painting, music, and the theater. In many respects, this court resembled that of Charles's ancestor, René Langton, and the resemblance may well have been deliberate. In 1761, Charles became Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, a latter-day chivalric vestige of the old Teutonic Knights. The Templars' Germanic proteges, who had been a major military power until the 16th century. Later, in 1770, a new Brad Pitt of the Teutonic Order was appointed Charles's favorite nephew, Maximilian. During the years that followed, the bond between uncle and nephew was extremely close, and in 1775, when the close-knit statue of Charles was raised in Brussels, Maximilian was again in attendance. The official unveiling of this statue, which had been very precisely scheduled, was on January 17th, the date of Nicholas Flamel's first alchemical transmutations of Marie Blanchett at Freestone. At Sonnière's fatal stroke, Maximilien de Lorraine. Born in 1756, Maximilien de Lorraine, or Maximilian von Habsburg, was Charles de Lorraine's favorite nephew and Maria Theresa's youngest son. As a youth, he had seemed destined for a military career until a fall from a horse left him crippled in one leg. As a result, he turned his energies to the church, becoming, in 1784, Bishop of Munster, as well as Archbishop and Imperial Elector of Cologne. On the death of his uncle, Charles, in 1780, he also became Grand Master of the Teutonic Order. In other respects, too, Maximilian followed in his uncle's footsteps. Like Charles, he became an assiduous patron of the arts. Among his proteges were Haydn, Mozart, and young Beethoven. Perhaps even intended to dedicate the first symphony to him. By the time the work was finished and published, however, Maximilian had died. Maximilian was an intelligent, tolerant, and easygoing ruler, beloved by his subjects and esteemed by his peers. He seems to have epitomized the ideal of the enlightened 18th century potentate and was probably one of the most cultured men of his age. In political matters, he appears to have been particularly lucid and urgently sought to warn his sister, Marie Antoinette, from the storm then just beginning to gather in France. When the storm broke, Maximilian did not panic. In fact, he seems to have been generally sympathetic to the original objectives of the revolution, while at the same time providing a haven for aristocratic refugees. Although Maximilian declared that he was not a Freemason, this statement has often been questioned. Certainly, he is widely suspected of having belonged to one or another secret society, despite his position in the Church and Rome's vigorous prohibition of such activities. In any case, he is known to have openly consorted with members of the craft, including, of course, Mozart. Like Robert Boyle, Charles Radcliffe, and Charles de Lorraine, Maximilian appears to reflect a certain pattern in the list of Sion's alleged Grand Masters. A pattern which in fact extends back to the Middle Ages. Like Boyle, Radcliffe, and his own uncle, Maximilian was the youngest son. The list of alleged Grand Masters includes a number of younger or youngest sons, many of whom appear in lieu of more famous elder brothers. Like Radcliffe and Charles de Lorraine, Maximilian kept a relatively low profile, working quietly behind the scenes and acting, assuming Sion's Grand Master acts at all through intermediaries and mouthpieces. Radcliffe, for example, appears to have acted through the Chevalier Ramsay Thunderhunt. Charles de Lorraine would seem to have acted through his brother, Francois. And Maximilian seems to have acted through cultural figures as well as through certain of his own numerous siblings, Marie Caroline, for instance, who, as Queen of Naples and Sicily, was largely responsible for the spread of Freemasonry in those domains. Charles Nodier. Born in 1780, Charles Nodier seems to inaugurate a pattern that obtains for all Sion's alleged Grand Masters after the French Revolution. Unlike his predecessors, he not only lacks noble blood but seems to have had no direct contact whatever with any of the families whose genealogies figure in the Freer documents. After the French Revolution, the Freer to Sion, or at least its purported Grand Masters, would appear to have been divorced both from the old aristocracy and from the corridors of political power, or so, at any rate. Our research led us to conclude at the time. Nodier's mother was one Suzanne Harris, who is said not to have known her parents. His father was a solicitor in Besançon and before the Revolution, a member of the local Jacobin club. After the outbreak of the Revolution, Nodier Sr. became mayor of Besançon and president of the town's revolutionary tribunal. He was also a highly esteemed master mason in the forefront of Masonic activity and politics at the time. Charles Nodier displayed an extraordinary capacity, allegedly becoming involved in, among other things, cultural and political affairs at the age of 10. By the age of 18, he had established a literary reputation and continued to publish prolifically for the rest of his life, averaging a book a year. His work covers an impressively diverse spectrum: travel journals, essays on literature and painting, studies of prosody and versification, a study of antennae and insects, an inquiry into the nature of suicide, autobiographical reminiscences, excursions into archaeology, linguistics, legal questions, and esoterica, not to mention a voluminous corpus of fiction. Today, Nodier is generally dismissed as a literary curiosity. Although initially sympathetic to the revolution, Nodier quickly turned against it. He performed a similar volte-face in his attitude towards Napoleon, and by 1804 was vociferous in his opposition to the emperor. In that year he published, in London, a satirical poem, De Napoleon. Having produced this seditious tract, he then, oddly enough, set about calling attention to the fact that he had done so. The authorities at first paid no attention to him, and Nodier seems to have gone inordinately out of his way simply to get arrested. At last, after writing a personal letter to Napoleon in which he professed his guilt, he was imprisoned for a month, then sent back to Besançon and kept under half-guarded surveillance. Nevertheless, Nodier claimed later that he had continued to oppose the regime, becoming involved in two separate plots against Napoleon, in 1804 and again in 1812. Although he was given to boasting in bravado, this claim may not have been without substance. Certainly, he was friendly with the instigators of the two plots, whom he had met at Besançon during his youth. Victor Hugo. Hugo's family was originally from Lorraine, a distinctly aristocratic descent, he later insisted, but he himself was born in Besançon, that hotbed of subterranean subversive activity, in 1802. His father was a general under Napoleon, but maintained very cordial relations with the conspirators involved in the plot against the emperor. One of these conspirators, in fact, was Madame Hugo's lover, cohabiting with her in the same house and playing an important role in her son's development, being the young Victor's godfather and mentor. Thus, Hugo had been exposed to the world of intrigue, conspiracy, and secret societies from the age of 7. By the age of 17, he was already a fervent disciple of Charles Nodier, and it was from Nodier that he acquired his erudite knowledge of Gothic architecture, which figures so saliently in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1819, Hugo and his brother established a publishing house in conjunction with Nodier, and this house produced the magazine under Nodier's editorial direction. In 1822, Hugo married in a special ceremony in St. Sulpice. 3 years later, he and Nodier, with their wives, embarked on a prolonged journey to Switzerland. In the same year, 1825, the two friends traveled together to attend the coronation of Charles X. In the years that followed, Hugo formed his own salon, modeled on Nodier's and patronized by most of the same celebrities. And when Nodier died in 1844, Hugo was one of the pallbearers at the funeral. Like Newton, Hugo was a deeply religious man, but his religious views were highly unorthodox. Like Newton, he was militantly anti-Trinitarian and repudiated Jesus' divinity. As a result of Nodier's influence, he was immersed all his life in esoterica, agnostic, Kabbalistic, and Hermetic thought, a preoccupation that figures prominently in his poetry and prose. And he is known to have been connected with the so-called Rose-Croix order, which also included a Lippist behind the young Maurice Bars. Hugo's political attitudes have always been a source of perplexity to critics and historians, and are too complex, too inconsistent, too contingent on other factors to be discussed here. He found it significant, however, that, despite his personal admiration for Napoleon, Hugo was a staunch royalist who welcomed the restoration of the old Bourbon dynasty. Yet at the same time he seems to have regarded the Bourbons as desirable only in a provisional way, a kind of stopgap measure. On the whole, he appears to have despised them, and was particularly fierce in his condemnation of Louis XIV. The ruler whom Hugo most enthusiastically endorsed, indeed, the two were close personal friends, was Louis Philippe, the citizen king, elected to preside over a popular monarchy. And Louis Philippe was allied by marriage to the House of Habsburg-Lorraine. His wife, in fact, was Maximilian de Lorraine's niece. And Lantern offers some interesting information. Victor Hugo, he said, had been inducted into the Prieur de Sion at a conventicle at Rouen on the 2nd of May 1825, sponsored by Charles Nodier. In June 1829, Hugo supposedly presided over the admission into the order of Théophile Gautier, who had been proposed by two other prominent literary figures, Gerard de Nerval and Patrice Morel. On the 22nd of July 1844, at a conventicle at St. Madeleine, Hugo was himself elected Grand Master and successor to Nodier. According to Anne Planter, an attempt was made a year later to implicate him in scandal and depose him. When Porte Gautier, the alleged instigator of this design, fled Paris and embarked on a journey to Algeria. None of this, of course, can be verified without considerable research, and perhaps not even then. Neither is it in itself of much apparent importance, but it is striking simply by virtue of its meticulous precision of detail. It was just this kind of precision that we encountered throughout our research of the Prieur de Sion. And it was just this kind of precision that convinced us to take the Prieur seriously. Granted, a novelist might fabricate a comparable precision, but Anne Planter had no aesthetic justification for doing so. Neither did he stand to gain financially or in any other way. In the absence of any plausible reason for fabrication, we had no reason to doubt his word. While we were not prepared to accept it unreservedly, we were not prepared summarily to discount it either. Claude Debussy. Debussy was born in 1862, and though his family was poor, he quickly established wealthy and influential contacts. While still in his teens, he was performing as pianist in the chateau of the French president's mistress, and seems to have become acquainted with the head of state as well. In 1880, he was adopted by the Russian noblewoman who had patronized Tchaikovsky and traveled with him to Switzerland, Italy, and Russia. In 1884, after winning the London Musical Prize, he studied for a time in Rome. Between 1887 and 1906, he lived mostly in Paris, but the years preceding and following this period were devoted to extensive traveling. These travels are known to have brought him in contact with a number of eminent people. He endeavored to determine whether any of them were connected with the families whose genealogies figure in the Prieur documents, but our efforts, for the most part, proved futile. Debussy, it transpired, was curiously secretive about his aristocratic and political associates. Many of his letters have been suppressed, and in those that have been published, important names and often whole sentences have been scrupulously excised. Debussy seems to have made Hugo's acquaintance with the symbolist poet Paul Verlaine. He later set a number of Hugo's works to music. During his time in Paris, he became an integral member of the symbolist circles, who dominated the cultural life of the French capital. These circles were sometimes illustrious, sometimes odd, sometimes both. They included the young Claire, Emile Homé, Debussy came to meet Vern Gersonnière, Emma Count, the esoterically oriented diva, the enigmatic Vegas of French symbolist poetry, Stéphane Mallarmé. One of whose masterpieces, Le Pré Midi d'une Femme, Debussy set to music to symbolist playwright Maurice Maeterlinck, whose drama, Louis et Melisande, Debussy turned into a world-famous opera. And the flamboyant Comte Philippe de Villiers de L'Isle, who wrote the Rosicrucian play, Axel. Although described in 1918 prevented its completion, Debussy began to compose a libretto for Villiers' occult drama, intending to turn it too into an opera. Among his other associates were the luminaries who attended Mallarmé's famous Tuesday night soirees: Oscar Wilde, W.B. Yeats, Paul Valéry, André Gide, Marcel Proust. In themselves, Debussy's and Mallarmé's circles were steeped in esoterica. At the same time, they overlapped other circles that were more esoteric still. Thus, Debussy consorted with virtually all the most prominent names in the so-called French occult revival. It is worth noting, perhaps, the review he wrote in 1903, which refers to Agnes Skywalker. In a parenthetical comment on one scene in the opera, Debussy says perhaps it's to destroy that scandalous legend that Jesus Christ died on the cross. 9. Jean Cocteau. Born in 1889, Cocteau seemed to us a most unlikely candidate for the Grand Mastership of an influential secret society. But so, too, did some of the other names when we first encountered them. For nearly all those other names, certain relevant connections gradually became apparent. In Cocteau's case, few such connections did. It is worth noting, however, that Cocteau was raised in a milieu close to the corridors of power. His family was politically prominent and his uncle was an important diplomat. Despite his subsequent bohemian existence, he never completely divorced himself from these influential spheres. Outrageous though his behavior sometimes was, he retained close contact with individuals highly placed in aristocratic and political circles. Like many of Sion's alleged Grand Masters, Boyle, Newton, Debussy, for instance, he appeared to remain sublimely aloof from politics. During the German occupation, he took no active part in the resistance but made apparent his antipathy to the Canadian regime. And after the war, he seems to have enjoyed considerable currency with de Gaulle, whose brother commissioned him to deliver an important lecture on the state of France. For us, the most convincing testimony of Cocteau's affiliation with the Prieur de Sion resides in his work in the film Orphée, for instance. In such plays as The Eagle Has Two Heads, based on the Habsburg Empress Elizabeth of Austria, and in the decoration of such churches as Notre Dame de France in London. Most convincing of all, however, is his signature appended to the statutes of the Prieur de Sion. Appendix 2. The Count de Chambord and the French drowned one individual whom we neglected to discuss. Properly, the text of the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail was the Count de Chambord. As the reader may remember, Chambord's name was linked to the story of Sanière, and thus was a point of departure for any investigation of the mystery of Rennes le Chateau. It was known, for example, that one of Sanière's sponsors and patronesses was the widow of the Comte de Chambord. And when Sanière was visited at Rennes le Chateau by Archduke Johann Stephan von Habsburg, Baron von Brandhoff and Comte de Baron, the Archduke identified himself as Monsieur de Chambord. It was as Anne de Chambord that the Archduke, acting for the real Chambord's widow, continued to visit Sanière regularly every year to monitor the progress of the priest's research, and to make annual payments of some 20,000 francs. Altogether, Anne de Chambord paid more than a dozen visits to Rennes le Chateau. He himself survived until 1947. According to the Prieur documents, he was searching on behalf of both Chambord's family and his own for formal proofs of Carolingian descent, which could then be used to upset the political givens of France. One, but who exactly was the Comte de Chambord, in whose name all this activity occurred? In 1793, Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette met their deaths under the guillotine. Their son, who might have been Louis XVII, disappeared. According to some accounts, he was murdered in the Temple of Paris, the one-time preceptory of the Knights Templar. According to other accounts, the prince was spirited away to safety. But whatever became of him, he was never heard of again, and his fate remains one of the enigmas of European history. In the meantime, the dead king's two brothers, the elder also named Louis, the younger named Charles, escaped to exile abroad. When Napoleon abdicated in 1814, the Bourbon monarchy was restored, and the guillotined king's brother ascended the throne as Louis XVIII. On Louis's death in 1824, the youngest of the brothers, Charles, succeeded him as Charles X. Charles' son had been assassinated in 1820. Just before his death, however, he had sired a son of his own, Henri Dieudonné d'Artois, Duc de Bordeaux. A year later, in 1821, this child received the title of Count de Chambord. The Count de Chambord was thus the grandson of King Charles X of France. He was also to be the last direct claimant to the throne in the Bourbon line of succession which had begun with Henri IV in 1589. The young count's grandfather, Charles X, ruled with signal ineptitude even by the standards of earlier Bourbon sovereigns. In a France that had experienced revolution, empire, secularization, a separation of church and state, an increasingly influential popular voice and a fledgling constitutional democracy, Charles attempted to invoke divine right and absolute monarchy. The resulting revolution, which erupted on the 20th of July 1830, was inevitable. Charles was forced to abdicate, expecting that his grandson, the Count de Chambord, would succeed and was uneven lived that the French Chamber of Deputies refused to accept this succession. Instead, they voted to confer the crown on the Duc d'Orléans, who became Louis Philippe, the so-called Citizen King. French monarchy, formerly hereditary, had now become elective, and the Count de Chambord was disenfranchised apart from what he believed to be his inheritance. The Count was 10 years old at the time. He and his deposed grandfather found refuge for a time in Britain, in Edinburgh, where the Crown made a holy palace available to them. From there, they moved to Prague, residing in the Herald Palace, where Charles, in 1836, died. On his grandfather's death, the 16-year-old Count de Chambord received a new tutor, none other than General Armand Marquis de Hauteul's nephew of Marie de Negri-Diepos or Marie de Blancheffer. Hauteul, it will be remembered, had resigned from his post as commandant of the Staff College in protest at the election of Louis Philippe. In the years that followed, the Count de Chambord, still rancorous at the loss of his inheritance, migrated from one place of exile to another in Austria, for example, in Bohemia. In 1841, he found his way to London, living in Belgrave Square. 2 years later, however, he antagonized the young Queen Victoria, a supporter of Louis Philippe, by organizing a demonstration on his own behalf in Belgravia. Shortly thereafter, he returned to the continent. In 1846, Chambord, now aged 26, married the Archduchess Maria Theresa by Habsburg-Este, sister of the Duke of Modena, ruler of Habsburg possessions in northern Italy. The Count and his new wife established their residence at Wiesbaden. Among their entourage was the young Marquis de Jersey. Two among their other visitors and courtiers were members of several families that have figured recurrently throughout our story, of the Noailles and Joyeuse families, for example. In the 17th century, the Duc de Joyeuse had married the Duchess d'Arques, chatelaine of the land on which the tomb at Arques, the tomb in Poussin's painting, from the chateau in the background, is situated. After migrating to Rome, the Duc de Joyeuse and the Duchess d'Arques had become Poussin's patrons. In 1848, France was again swept by revolution, but any dreams the Count de Chambord harbored of obtaining the throne were thwarted when Louis Napoleon was elected president of the Second Republic. 4 years later, the Republic was transformed by referendum into the Second Empire, and Louis Napoleon became the Emperor Napoleon III. For the next 2 decades, Chambord was forced to watch from exile as France became the cultural capital of Europe and associated the supreme power on the continent. The Crimean War 1854-6 ended inconclusively, but it yielded a dividend in propaganda of some impressive military victories, at the Alma for example, at Balaclava and at Inkerman. These, granted, were primarily achievements of British troops, but the French army, to the extent that it was involved, acquitted itself well, and France could therefore bask in the glory. Further glory, rather more deserved, was won in 1859, when French soldiers defeated the Austrians at the battles of Magenta and Solferino and liberated northern Italy from Habsburg control. In 1870, the aura of French invincibility was deflated by Bismarck's military machine in the Franco-Prussian War. After a series of humiliating defeats, Napoleon III was forced to abdicate. The Second Empire collapsed in a revolutionary provisional government, and Paris declared a republic. In the aftermath of this debacle, the Count de Chambord's opportunity seemed at last to have come. In October 1873, he was offered the throne of France on condition that he accepted the tricolour flag and the principles of the French Revolution. Remaining fettered to his absolutist values, the Count refused these conditions. The offer of the throne was withdrawn, and in February 1875, the Third French Republic was officially proclaimed. Chambord survived, more embittered than ever, until 1883. During his final illness, his supporters flocked to pray for him at Lourdes and the Memorial Center at the Huron du Calzor, which figures in the text of the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. Within 2 years of her husband's death, Chambord's widow, named Maria Theresa von Habsburg, dispatched her relative Johann Stephan von Habsburg to rend the chateau. What was he seeking on her behalf? According to the Freer documents, formal proofs of Merovingian descent in departments discovered by Barang or Saunier. But such proofs would hardly have authenticated the claims of a virgin descender such as Chambord. They might, however, have authenticated the Merovingian descent and thus the claims of the Habsburgs. It is difficult to assess the impact such authentication might have had on the political givens of France. But in 1914, the issue became academic when France found herself at war with the Habsburg Imperium. This, of course, would have put Saunier in a compromising position. It would also explain the rumors of German and Austrian spies in the vicinity of Rennes-le-Chateau. It would explain the interest not only of the Habsburgs but also of the Hohenzollerns in the mystery. It would explain why, according to one well-informed source, the French Ministry of War maintained a dossier on Saunier and his alleged contacts with enemy agents. And it might shed some light on the mysterious circumstances attending Saunier's death in 1917. Appendix 3 Eastern European literary figures Alexander Lernet of Hollandia is virtually unknown in the English-speaking world. Even among those conversant with Austrian literature, his status is regarded as equivocal, the status of a gifted dilettante rather than that of a major artist. He was born in 1897, roughly contemporary with Joseph Rothenheim von Dotterer, who died in 1976. Like Roth and Dotterer, he spent his childhood and boyhood under the old Habsburg Imperium, then witnessed the collapse of the once mighty and seemingly immutable empire. Like Roth and Dotterer, he could be scathingly critical of the defunct regime, while at the same time pining nostalgically for the golden days of its twilight. Lernet of Hollandia began publishing poetry when both he and the century were still in their 20s. His early verse earned praise from such luminaries as Goethe and Hofmannsthal. In the 1930s, while not abandoning poetry, he began to turn first to drama, then to prose fiction, and though he regarded his poetry as his major achievement, it is primarily for his novels that he is remembered today. While Smith being devoid of literary significance, these are likely works of monumental stature. Let me mention that he was certain of the addressed, sometimes in a tantalizingly oblique fashion, themes relevant to the mystery of Rennes-le-Chateau. In 1936, for example, 20 years before Pierre Planter de St. Clair and his entourage began extolling the importance of the Merovingian bloodline, Lernet of Hollandia published a novel entitled, in English, The Resurrection of Maltravers. The text includes such passages as the following. Legend had it that the Maltravers are ultimately descended from no lesser a being than Merowite, the son of an ocean demon, who had overpowered the queen of the Franks as she bathed in the sea. When the Carolingians seized power in France, the Merovingians were said to be so incapable of maintaining the regency that, purely for prestige purposes, they had simply driven around the country in two-wheeled ox carts, the kind used during the migration of the peoples when the Carolingians seized the throne. Some of the LS2 Merovingians fled to Norman territory, from where they upheld their hereditary claims. They continued to bear the most ancient French coat of arms, the golden toes, which eventually evolved into lilies. The Dukes of Normandy and Thab led them with the Conde de Maltravers, heirs of the toads. Recovered from the decay of their house and soon became such a powerful shield for the Dukes of Normandy that they were surnamed Fortescue means powerful shield, and their motto was arise and take your inheritance. They never did. But when the Normans conquered England, the Fortescue Maltravers went remote and they received County Surrey before it was given to the Howards. Eventually, they lost County de Maltravers in northern France, and it passed into the hands of the summer storks and famine from food. Around the time of the Turkish wars, a certain few Vortesky Maltravers, a younger son of the dynasty, arrived in Hungary, joined the fight against the Turks, became a general, and was made a Constantia noblesse by the emperor, but without the predicate illustrious, for the other families protested, even though they themselves bore that title more or less illegitimately. However, the emperor presented him with several estates in northern Hungary, including Skalitz and Savotix. As the reader will no doubt realize, none of the proper names cited in this passage occurs in the text of the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. They may be anagrams. They may be puns in any of several languages known to Internet Polenia. They may involve word games of some other kind, or codes such as those that have appeared in our story from Henri Baudet to the Marquis de Cherisy. But the theme of a blood descent from the Merovingians described elsewhere in the texts as the original aristocracy and first family of Europe is clear enough. So, too, is another reference in the text which equates the Merovingians exclusively with the real families. Yet despite the emphasis afforded them, the Merovingians are ultimately incidental to Loretta Holenia's novel, which moves off in other directions to confront other subject matter. The Merovingian allusions are tossed in as provocative non sequiturs, as if Loretta Holenia were confiding a smiling to someone indicating that he knew something. One might, of course, see a number of incidents in the narrative, perhaps the narrative in its entirety, as an allegory. But it is not feasible in this postscript to embark on detailed literary analysis and interpretation. All we can do here is recommend the resurrection of Maltravers as well as other works in Loretta Holenia's corpus to our readers. Loretta Holenia is a relatively minor literary figure. Other writers in his community's circle were of considerably greater consequence. One of these is Semito Bondador, 1896 to 1966. Dotterer's status may not be comparable to that of the slightly older novelists Robert Musil and Herman Broch, who dominated Viennese literary society during the 30s. But he is still a major figure, with an assured place in any syllabus of 20th century German language prose fiction. Although he, too, is little known in the English-speaking world, one of his two most important works, The Demons, has appeared in English translation, as have two more. Ephemeral texts. Still untranslated is the earlier of his two most ambitious novels, Die Strudel-Hofstede, published in German in 1951. Also untranslated is his most bizarre and oblique narrative, The Merovingians, or The Total Family, published in German in 1962. Again, it is not feasible here to embark on any detailed literary analysis. Suffice to say that the work, despite its title, is not set in Merovingian times. On the contrary, it is a complex, symbolic, and perhaps allegorical story, incorporating much discursive digression and recounting various events of Merovingian history and 19th century bourgeois dress. It will prove fertile territory for readers sufficiently fluent in German to cope with Dotterer's ornate Baroque and sometimes labyrinthic prose. Such readers may well ask themselves why two pro-Habsburg Austrian novelists working in Vienna between the 1930s and the 1960s should be so conversant and preoccupied with Merovingian themes. And such readers may also be prompted to look at some of the other writers and Dotterer's and Loretta Holenia's literary circle, and Musil's closest friend and disciple, for example, Albert Paris Gütersloh, whose major novel, Sun and Moon, still awaits translation. Loretta Holenia, Dotterer, and their circle made us wonder whether the story we had traced in France might not have been echoed elsewhere, specifically in Habsburg and former Habsburg domains. Until the early 19th century, these domains had included modern-day Belgium, formerly the Austrian Netherlands. Here, after all, was the original heartland of the Merovingians. From here had issued numerous families claiming Merovingian descent, including that of the Marquis de Cherisy. In the 18th century, Charles de Lorraine, cited as Grand Master of the Peer de Sion, had the Governor General of the Austrian Netherlands. Belgium is also the birthplace of several symbolist figures of the fantasy who moved in the circles of Debussy and Emile Gerhardt, for example, and, of course, Maurice Maynard and whose Merovingian drama, Lies and Melisande, Debussy based his opera. Much of this territory has yet to be explored, but it was from a very different quarter of the former Habsburg Empire that the most startling and significant discovery was to issue. We owe this discovery to Sonia Konnikova, co-editor of the Everyman Companion to East European Literature, Dent, 1993. Ms. Konnikova called our attention to a Czech novelist, one Prokop Chocolazek, one who was born in 1819 and died in 1864. Chocolazek is an extremely obscure figure and an extremely minor one, of questionable literary consequence. From Ms. Konikova's description of him, he would seem to have been a kind of down-marketed, backhanded bohemian imitator of Sir Walter Scott who churned out a series of meticulously researched but artistically inept historical narratives often on chivalric themes. In 1842, when the Parisian circle of Charles Hervé, Gerard, Merville, Perel, Théophile Gautier, and Victor Hugo was flourishing, Chocolazek published a novel entitled, in translation, The Templars in Bohemia. According to Pierre Planter de Saint Clair, the Marquis de Jersey and their associates, the Knights Templar had been created as a kind of executive and public persona for the Ordre de Sion. The Ordre de Sion was said to be the real power behind the Templars until 1188, at which time they were, so to speak, set free. In 1188, the Ordre de Sion was said to have become the Prieur de Sion and continued as such to the present. In our own research, we found much circumstantial evidence to support these assertions, but no definitive information, no testimony independent of the Prieur's own statements. We found, for example, original charters pertaining to the Ordre de Sion dating from the 12th and 13th centuries, but there was no explicit mention of a link with the Templars. We found other references to Sion as late as the 17th century, when one of their premises at Orleans was turned over to the Jesuits. After the 17th century, however, we found no allusions to any Ordre or Prieur de Sion until the modern-day organization service under Planter de Saint Clair's auspices in 1956. In the Templars in Bohemia, published in 1842, Prokop Chocolazek is quite explicit. At the beginning of the Crusades, Crusaders by Knights under the leadership of Hughes Cain established themselves as the Knights of Sion, or the Ordre de Sion. They were to become the clandestine nucleus behind the Knights Templar, who were created as their public facade. Sion figures by name throughout Chocolazek's novel. When Templar functionaries greet each other, for example, they do so with the words Hail Sion, or Glory to Sion. For readers with knowledge of Czech, Prokop Chocolazek is likely to prove a happy hunting ground indeed. Unfortunately, we possess no such knowledge. We are left baffled by the question of how Dare, an obscure Bohemian novelist of the early to mid-19th century, came by this information. Appendix 4, the order of the Philippi in our book, The Temple and the Lodge. The Montgomery family emerged as having played a salient role in the origins and coalescence of what later became Freemasonry, and although the point was not made explicitly in that book, the reader will undoubtedly have noted numerous links between the Montgomery family and various other families associated with the Prieur de Sion. When we wrote The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, however, we were not yet aware of the Montgomery family's significance. In consequence, only one Montgomery figured in our text. This was Gabriel, who in 1559, at a jousting tournament, killed the French Valois-King Henry II with a lance thrust through the eye. A lance thrust eerily reminiscent of the one which supposedly killed the Merovingian king Chadwick II in 8679. It was his ostensibly accurate prediction of the French monarch's death that at a single stroke established Nostradamus' reputation as a prophet and seer. As we pointed out in the text, however, there have been persuasive suggestions that Nostradamus was in fact working as an agent for the House of Lorraine. And that the supposed prophecy was not a prophecy at all, but a future interaction. There have been similar suggestions that Gabriel de Montgomery, who brought the prophecy to fulfillment, was also working for the House of Lorraine. After the Holy Flood and the Holy Grail was published, we were contacted by a member of the Montgomery family. He made available a corpus of intriguing material, some of which found its way into the temple and the lobby and reinforced the conclusions of that thought. He also recounted a narrative which had surfaced among Montgomery family papers, a 19th century translation or transcription of a much earlier text. According to this narrative, a man named Yeshua ben Joseph at some point during the Roman occupation of Palestine was married to a woman named Miriam of Bethany. Miriam was described as a priestess of a female cult. In the aftermath of a revolt against the Romans, the narrative did not specify which revolt Miriam was captured. Because she was pregnant, however, she was spared execution, was smuggled out of Palestine, and eventually found refuge in Gaul, where she bore a daughter. No subsequent mention was made of Yeshua ben Joseph, who presumably died in the revolt or was executed for his part in it. This narrative effectively speaks for itself. It is impressively close to the conclusions we proffered in the Holy Flood and the Holy Grail. Our informant also provided us with detailed material on the neo-Shidduchite order known as the Order of the Fleur-de-Lis. It was reportedly founded in 1439 by René d'Ange, Cosimo de' Medici, and an unidentified member of the Montgomery family, one of the numerous Scots fighting on the continent at the time. The order was said to have been suppressed by Pope Sixtus IV in 1478 and been dormant for the better part of a century. When it surfaced again in 1556, its members are said to have included James Hamilton, Robert C. William de Gonzaga, Louis de Gonzaga, and Juan von Habsburg. Along with the Montgomery family, the Hamiltons and Seatons were among the interlocking network of Scottish aristocrats associated with the origins of Freemasonry. Louis de Gonzaga, Duc de Nevers, is listed as one of the Peter de Sauron's Grand Masters. His brother, William, was married to Eleanor von Habsburg, daughter of the Emperor Ferdinand I. William's granddaughter was to marry another Habsburg, future Emperor Ferdinand II. The primary objective of the Order of the Fleur-de-Lis was apparently the campaign against the Turks in what is now Serbia. This would seem to explain the Fleur-de-Lis on the present Bosnian flag. The order also appears to have become embroiled in French politics of the 16th and 17th centuries. Its members around 1560 are said to have included Gabriel de Montgomery, whose lance thrust killed Henri II, and at least 30 other personnel from the Scots Guard. Ostensibly the personal bodyguard of Valois monarchs, but secretly aligned with the Valois rivals, the House of Guise-Lorraine. Some 90 years later, during the Fronde, the Order of the Fleur-de-Lis was still reportedly aligned with the House of Lorraine. According to our informant, his knowledge derived from his uncle, the late Brigadier John Montgomery, who was private secretary to Leopold, King of the Belgians between the two world wars of this century and last Grand Master of the Order of the Fleur-de-Lis. For the last 30-odd years, the order has apparently been dormant, but is now being revived. Since its inception, its Grand Masters have been the following: 1439 to 1480 René d'Anjou, 1480 to 1485 Ludovico Sforza, Duke of Milan, 1485 to 1508 René Duke de Lorraine, 1508 to 1527 Charles de Montpensier, Constable of Bourbon, 1527 to 1556 Ferranti de Gonzaga, 1556 to 1572 Hugh Montgomery, 2nd Earl of Eglinton, 1572 to 1585 David Basile, 1585 to 15 Duke of Lorraine, 1640 to 1675 Henri de la Tour, 1675 to 1689 John Graham of Flavor House, Viscount Dundee, 1689 to 1715 Hugh Montgomery of Mount Alexander, 1716 Earl of Derwentwater, 1746 to 1757 John Erskine of Mar, 1757 to 1768 Alexander Montgomery, Earl of Eglinton, 1768 to 1800 Maximilian von Habsburg, 1800 to 1815 Hugh Montgomery of Grey Abbey, 1815 to 1825 George Beaumont, 1825 to 1838 Robert Montgomery, 1862 Archibald Montgomery of Eglinton and Winton, 1862 to 1875 Louis Napoleon, 1875 to 1900 Robert Dundee of Blackfield, 1900 to 1914 Robert Hamilton of Hamilton, 19 King of the Belgians. Some of these names, especially those towards the latter part of the list, are unknown to us. The list also includes Spark Rangers, Railway Dance, Commodores of Brooklyn, Juan Peter Gonzalez, Charles Radcliffe, and Maximilian von Habsburg, who are cited as Grand Masters of the career to Sion. And a number of other names are closely connected with the story recounted in our book. Ludovico Sforza, for example, was the patron of Leonardo da Vinci, and Leonardo was named as one of the career's Grand Masters. Rene II of Lorraine, an Angevin, was the son of Violette de Bar, also on the career's Grand Master list, and through his marriage to Jean d'Arcourt de Montgomery. Father-in-law de Guise. Charles de Guise, Duke of Lorraine, was married to the Duchess of Duquesne, whose lands included the site of the TRUMAN Cousins painting and who became Cousins International Road. John Grant Flavor House, Viscount Dundee, was found dead on the battlefield of Derry, reportedly with an original 31314 Templar cross. Was the village of Rennes-le-Château. The original city of Rennes stretched across the valley to the left. 2 Chateau de Harcourt, Rennes-le-Château, now owned by the Fun family. Its foundations date from Visigoth times. The priest of Rennes-le-Château burned your son-hair, center, standing. For son-hair and his housekeeper, Marie Dinarno, in the grounds of the Villa with the church in the background. 5 The Visigoth pillar with the church in Rennes-le-Château, in which son-hair found recorded documents in 1891. 6 A Calvary in the churchyard of Rennes-le-Château. AOMPS probably stands for Antiquus Ordo Mysticus Prioritationis. 7 The Clermont Gala, built by Saint-Pierre of Rennes-le-Château, which housed his library. 8 The Cathar Castle of Montségur in the Languedoc, which fell to the northern French Crusaders in 1244. It had long been a major center of Catharism. 9A 15th century Dutch print, Jerusalem, showing the temple, and in the top left corner Notre Dame du Mont de Sion. 10A 19th century photograph of the tomb of David, which, with the synagogue, formed the Abbey of Notre Dame du Mont de Sion, Jerusalem during the Crusades. Founded by Godefroy de Bouillon in 1099, it was the headquarters of the Order of Sion until 1187. 11 The Temple, Jerusalem. In the center is the dome of the rock with the Alaska Mosque, which was occupied by the Knights Templar until 1187, to the left. 12 The Castle of Igers, showing the octagonal keep. Igers was the headquarters of the Prieur de Sion after 1188. Photo credit Michael Agent, London. 13 Part of the sea wall of the Castle of Athol, Palestine. Built by the Knights Templar in 1218, it was evacuated in 1291 after the fall of Acre. 14 The Church of the Knights Templar in the Temple, London. The Rabbi was consecrated in 1185 by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. 15 The interior of the Temple Church, London. The effigies of knights date from the 13th century. Not all are Templars. 16A seal of the Abbey of Notre Dame du Mont de Sion, Jerusalem. Dated March 2nd, 1289, it depicts the Holy Spirit descending to the apostles in the form of a dove. 16 The seal of the Knights Templar, England, 1303, showing the Lion of England, the cross patty and the crescent moon of the Mother Goddess with stars. 17 The ruins of the Abbey of Orville in Belgium, founded by a mysterious group of monks from Calabria. Photo credit Michael Agent, London. 18 The tomb near Arques, apparently painted by Poussin and Les Burgers, Arcady. 19 The Fontaine de Fortune, painted in 1457 by René d'Anjou. The inscription says the sorcerer Virgil brought the spring forth. Rene's contemporaries would have associated Virgil with Arcadia. This is the first surfacing of Arcadia's underground stream, Alpheus, in modern Western culture. 20 in Arcadia Ego by Gergino, c. 1618, the first known painting to use this phrase. 21 feet in Arcadia Ego by Poussin, his first painting with this theme, completed circa 1630. 22 feet less Burgers d'Arcadie by Poussin, circa 1640 to 42. 23 feet The Shepherd's Monument, Shepherd Hall, Snaps. This is an 18th century copy of Poussin's Les Burgers d'Arcadie reversed rear fashion. The inscription has never been deciphered. 24 Masonic Tomb of the 17th century. Skull and crossbones indicate that the buried man was a masturbator. Many such tombs predate the founding of the English Grand Lodge in 1717. 25 A silver reliquary containing the Japan skull of Dagobert II, assassinated near Stanley, December 23, 679. The skull is kept in the convent at Mons. 26 Pierre Planted de Saint Clair, present Grand Master of the Prière de Sion. Photographed in Paris, 1982. Photo credit Michael Page in London. 27 Gold Sword Hilton scabbard set with garnets found in the grave of child Eric I, father of Clovis I. 28 Crystal ball found in child Eric's grave. Many similar have been found in Merovingian tombs. Their use is unknown. 29 Two gold bees, all that remain from the 300 found in child Eric's grave. 30 The Templar Church at Garway, Herefordshire. The original church was circular, but was dismantled and rebuilt at a later date. 31 Graffiti on the head of the piscina in the South Chapel of Garway Church, showing a winged pyramid and solar emblem, a fish and a snake. 32 Jewish point of the time of Antiochus VII, 138 to 29 BC. The lily, stylized here and perhaps a precursor of the French fleur-de-lis, was a symbol of Judea. 33 Below left window at La Cathedral, near Rennes-le-Château, in the shape of the Star of David. 34 Legend of the fleur-de-lis, a 15th century illumination of the legend of the divine origins of the fleur-de-lis, symbol of the French royal line. Clovis I is shown receiving the banner from his queen Clotilde. 35 Untitled painting of Godefroy de Bouillon wearing the crown of thorns by Claude Fignon, circa 1623. Painted for Claude de Lorraine, whose coat of arms is on the right. Claude and his brother, Charles, Duke of Guise, were tutored by Robert Blood, Grand Master, Prieur de Sion. 36 Saunière's statue of Saint Mary Magdalene, patron saint of Rennes-le-Château, in the Portuguese village church. She is shown here, in accordance with the legend that she came to France bearing the true cross and the Grail. 37 The painted bas-relief of the 14th Station of the Cross in Rennes-le-Château Church. By tradition, this station always depicts Jesus being laid into the tomb. Saunière's version subtly alters the meaning. The New Testament informs us that Christ was taken down from the cross for one night called the beginning of Passover. But here Saunière shows us a full moon in a night dark sky. This is later. Passover has already begun. Could Saunière be suggesting that concealed in the darkness of night, Jesus was carried out again? 38 Templar gravestone of a Templar masturbation showing the square Mason's hammer. 39 Manuscript depiction of the burning alive over a slow fire on a small island in the Seine, Paris, of the last Templar Grand Master Jacques de Molay. And the commander of Normandy, Geoffroy de Charny, on the 18th of March 1314. This island now provides support for part of Paris. 40 The Church of the Knights Templar in the Temple, London. The round nave was consecrated in 1185 by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. 41 Facsimile of part of the Copper Scroll in the Imam Museum, Jordan. 42 authors with Pierre Planter de Saint Clair, Paris, 1982. Left to right. Henry Lincoln, Michael Pagans, Richard Weed, Pierre Planter. 43 The Chateau at Gizzers, Normandy, showing the Octagon feast. Gizzers was said to be the headquarters of the Prieur de Sion after 1188. 44 Statue of the Virgin Mary in the modern monastic quarters of the Abbey of Orville was first constructed. The pentagram on her head pointed downwards, a symbol of the occultations of Venus, but subsequently someone was sufficiently outraged to go to the effort of twisting the pentagram around to point upwards. 45 feet La Primavera Spring, painted around 1480 by Sandro Botticelli, alleged Grand Master of the Priere de Sion, 1483 to 1510. Botticelli was a student of the Hermetic and Platonic philosopher Marsilio Ficino, who lived in Florence during the 15th century under the patronage of the Medici family. The painting depicts the eternal circulation of divine energy from the heavens on the right through the earth and its life, and back to the heavens again via the wand of Hermes on the left. The whole process mediated by the goddess. 46. The Last Supper, painted in Santa Maria della Grazie, Milan, by Leonardo da Vinci, alleged Grand Master of the Priere de Sion from 1510 to 1519. Note the curious similarity between the depiction of Jesus in the center and the figure shown second from the left in profile. Can this be explained by the argument that Leonardo believed in a Renaissance version of the old belief that Jesus had a twin brother, Thomas? Vasari, in the first edition of his Lives of the Artists, 1550, wrote that Leonardo formed a doctrine so heretical that he depended no more on any religion. 47. The Church of Saint Sulpice, Paris. ViralRabbi is said to have brought the coded documents here for translation. 48. Base of the astronomical gnomon, St. Sulpice Church. Note the brass strip which has run across the church floor to bisect the monument. Part of both text and design have been chiseled out as if in an attempt at concealment. 49. The brass strip which runs across the floor of St. Sulpice. On a specific date, originally January 17th, the sun shines through a small, clear glass panel to strike the brass strip. 50. The Apprentice Pillar, inside Roslin Chapel. 51. The Coronation of Napoleon is painted by Jacques-Louis David, who emphasized the gold keys on Napoleon's robe. Above David's studio, a secret society met regularly. Bibliography 1. The Priere Documents, Antoine Lermite, Un Trésor Maravin Dinoret Le Chateau, Anvers, 1961. BAUCEAN, Nicolas Beaupais Pellegrain, Blanche, Paris, 1967. BLNNCASALL, Madeline, Les Descendants, Maravin, Jeans OU, L'Enigme du Raises Wisigoth, Geneva, 1965. Godin, Henri, La Vrelong Celtic Carcassonne, 1886. Godin, Henri, La Vrelong Celtic Facsimile Edition with preface by Pierre Planter de Saint Clair, Paris, 1978. CHERISEY, Philippe Circuit, Liege, 1968. CHERISEY, Philippe Liquid, Paris, 1978. CHERISEY, Philippe Lower de Rencourt and Napoleon, Liege, 1975. DELAUDE, Jean La Cercle de Lycée, Toulouse, 1977. FEUDERE, Pierre, St. Max and Lewis and Coker, Gaston, Uncertain Cruise Envoys, 1967. HISLER, Henri, Trésor Pays Pellegrain, Blanche, 1969. HISLER, Henri, Loisette Gauvin, Taylor, France, Paris, 1964. LOBINEAU, Henri, Knowledge Day, Voice Maravin, Jean, that origin day, divers, Escamille, Frances, Each Rangers, the Sush Maravin, Jean, Geneva, 1956. LOBINEAU, Henri, Dossier, Secrets to Henry Lopinel, Paris, 1967. Miriam D. Burgers, Sarkini, Ribari, no. 18, Paris, 1973. As compared to Rem Chateau, Rebel Wapre, 1966. STUDLEIN, Pierre Cities, Languedoc, 1884. Reproduction of footage 16 to 23 by Abby Joseph Portali, Villers Elby Races, 1962. Two general references Addison, CG, The History of the Knights Templars, London, 1842. ALARTM, suppression the Lord to do temple and Virgio, bulletin de la Sociedad Agricole, Scientific et Literaire des Pyrénées Orientales, Volume 15, for Pigment, 1867. Elpin M. de Cartulaire General de l'Ordre du Temple, Paris, 1913. Allegro, J.M., The Dead Sea Scrolls, Second Edit, Harmonsworth, 1975. Allegro, J.M., The Treasure of the Copper Scroll, London, 1960. ALLIER, La Cabale de Davos, 1627 to 1666, Paris, 1902. ALLIER, Une Société Secrète Expéciable. La Compagnie du Très Saint-Sacrament, Paris, 1909. Anderson, J. The Constitutions of the Freemasons, Paris, 1723. ANDRESSOHN, J.C., The Ancestry and Life of Godfrey of Bloomington, 1947. A New Era Ecclesiastic, Paris, 1896. Anselm, Lapie, Historic Genealogy and Chronological de la Maison Royale de France, 9 vols. Paris, 1726 to 33. MHD, Histoire des Ducs et des Comtes de Champagne, 7 vols. Paris, 1859 to 69. ARCONS, CD, du flux et reflux sur la mer des longitudes avec des observations sur les mines métalliques de France, Paris, 1667. L'Aubert de l'ACHNAYE des Trois, F.A. Dictionnaire de la Noblesse, 19 vols, 3rd edit, Paris, 1863 to 76. Igus A. Company du Saint-Sacrament at Toulouse, Paris, 1913. Vander, E. Prophecies of Saint Malachy and Saint Lentil, 4th edit, Gerard's Cross, 1979. Barber, M. The Trial of the Templars, Cambridge, 1978. Barber, R. King Arthur and Legend and History, Ipswich, 1973. Barber, R. The Knight and Chivalry, 2nd edit, Ipswich, 1974. Baring Gould, As Curious Myths of the Middle Ages, London, 1881. Viral, The Legendes Capitaines, Tours, 1884. Barthélemy, Ida Obituaire de la Commanderie du Temple de Reims, Paris, 1882. BEGO Juliette, Comte de Société Émile de la Compagnie du Saint Sacrament, Maud de Toulouse, Paris, 1913. BERNABAC, C. Le Mystère de Rennes, Paris, 1978. Bernstein, H. The Truth About the Protocols, New York, 1935. Birch T. The Life of Robert Boyle, London, 1744. Blunt A. Nicholas Poussin, 2 vols. London, 1967. Bouquet, M. Ed Raquel de Historians des Gauls et de la France, Volume 15, Paris, 1738. Brandon, S.G.F. Jesus and the Zealots, Manchester, 1967. Brandon, S.G.F. The Trial of Jesus of Nazareth, London, 1968. Brownlee, W.H. Whence the Gospel According to John, James H. Charlie's Work at John and Qumran, London, 1972. Rule, Chartiste d'Adam, H. de Andy Dumont, Zion et la Prière de Saint Samson d'Orléans, Judeo-Orient, Latin, Volume 10, Paris, 1905. Bull, N.J., The Rise of the Church, London, 1967. CALMET, Dom, De Divinites, Piens, Nervsinidites, Vidame. Calmet First Desert, St. D.A., 1876. Carpenter R., Folktale, Fiction and Saga in the Homeric Epics, Los Angeles, 1946. Guerrière, Vie, Histoire et Cartulaire des Templiers de Provence, Paris, 1919. CATELG, The Memoirs de l'Histoire du Languedoc-Toulouse, 1633. Chadwick H. Early Church, Harmonsworth, 1978. Chadwick H. Priscilla de Babila, Oxford, 1976. The Charles Irish, March, 18th, Paris, October 10. 1973. CHASSANT, and Tossin, H. Dictionnaire de devises historic set Heraldiques Paris, 1878. Chatelet TV, Sir Evan Nicholas, UK, Paris, 1905. CHUMEILJL Patricia Ortiz, Triangle Door, Paris, 1979. Shirteen de Tres, Conte del Graal, published as The Story of the Grail, trans. Robert W. Linker, second edit, Chapel Hill, 1952. COCHET, Abbey, the Tombeau the Child Eric Wire, Paris, 1859. Code, H. The Trial and Death of Jesus, New York, 1971. Code, and The Pursuit of the Millennium, St. Albans, 1978. Code, and Warrant for Genocide, Harmonsworth, 1970. Column H. Après Zincourt. Bar Capital du Palais, et la Compagnie du Livrier Blog, Bulletin des Sociétés d'Histoire et d'Archéologie de l'Histoire. 12 Parliament, 1975. COURREND, Notice Historique sur l'Espèce Red, Arkansas, 1934. Prison H. Declared du Temple, Paris, 1886. SEL Physical Slabs, Crosses of the Middle Ages, London, 1849. DARAUL, A History of Secret Societies, New York, 1969. DELA BORDE, Jean de Joinville at S. Seigneurs de Joinville, Paris, 1894. Deme G. Inventaire des Sceaux de la Normandie, Paris, 1881. DNYAU, Histoire Gizzers at Du Pays de Volks and Gizzers, 1629. Manuscript Peru Call. Delivery 22 19 14A. DESCADEILLASR. Mythology du Trésor Red. Memoirs in the Société des Sciences de Professor.
The bit really close to
Volume
the
7, Part 2, Arkansas, 1974. DESCADEILLASR. Renettes Derniers Seigneurs Toulouse, 1964. EIDRIT, Abbey DH, La Montagne de Sion, Baudemont et Son Sanctuaire, Memoirs de la Société d'Archéologie Lorraine, 3rd Esther, Volume 27, Nancy, 1899. DIGOT, Histoire de Lorraine, Falls, Nancy, 1856. DIGOT, Histoire du Royaume d'Australie, 4 Falls, Nancy, 1863. DIGOT, a memoir sur les établissements de l'ordre du Temple at Lorraine, Memoirs de la Société d'Archéologie Lorraine, 2nd Esther, Volume 10, Nancy, 1868. DIGOT, P. Notice Historique sur Notre Dame de Sion, Nancy, 1856. Dill, as Roman Society in Gaul in Merovingian Age, London, 1926. Dobbs, B.J.T., The Foundations of Newton's Alchemy, Cambridge, 1975. Dodge, C.H., Historical Tradition in the Fourth Gospel, Cambridge, 1963. Dodu, G., Histoire des Institutions dans le Royaume Latin de Jerusalem, Paris, 1894. DOINELJS, Notes sur le Roi Hilderic III, Carcassonne, 1899. Drummond J.S., The 20th Century Hoax, London, 1961. Dumas, F. The Tombeau de Child Eric, Paris, N.D. Einhard, The Life of Charlemagne, in 2 Lives of Charlemagne, trans. Louis Thorpe Harmonsworth, 1979. Eisenstein, E.L., The First Professional Revolutionist, Filippo Michel Benerati, Harvard, 1959. Eisler, R., The Messiah Jesus and John the Baptist, trans. A.H. Graff, London, 1931. ERDESWICKS, A Survey of Staffordshire, New Eden, London, 1844. ESQUIEUL, Les Templiers et Corps, in Bulletin de la Société des Études Littéraires, Scientifiques et Artistiques, du Lot, Volume 22, Flehors, 1897. Division, VI, The 5th Century Invasion South of the Thames, London, 1965. FEDIEL, Comte de Raises at the Diocese de Allen, Carcassonne, 1880, reprinted Brussels, 1979. Bing, Beach Map, Saboon, Gang, De Temple, Rodents, 2 balls. Munster, 1907. Foles, Art, Tradition, Hagiography, Getco, The Saint Dagobert, Roy de Franks, Lemoyne H. 4th Ezard, Volume 18, Brussels, 1963. Fortune, Deep the Mystical Topolo, 9th Eden, London, 1970. Frappier, Jane, Schwartine, Detroit, Paris, 1968. French DJ, John D., The World of an Elizabethan Vegas, London, 1972. Fry, L. Waters flowing eastward, the war against the kingship of Christ, London, 1965. Genealogy, the evil of crime, manuscript, Will. With Carly, 1425,
How about stop instantly just getting hit on the person? Wow, look at that. Oh, amazing.
Jewish symbols in the Greco-Roman period folklores. New York, 1953. Gospel of the infancy of Jesus Christ in the lost books of the Bible and Rutherford H. Platt, New York, 1974. Gospel of Peter in the lost books of the Bible and Rutherford H. Platt, New York, 1974. RS, The History of Freemasonry, 6 balls. London, N.D.
All the pain when you see your first 3 points 2 bucks.
Paris, 1910. Grace R. The Greek myths, 2 balls, separate. Edward Farmansworth, 1978. Grace R. King Jesus, 4 letters, London, 1960. Grace R. The White Goddess, a large heaven, London, 1977. Gregory of Tours, The History of the Franks, France. Louis Thorpe Farmansworth, 1977. GREVW, The Free Christian Braille Tradition of the Three Kings, Mercury Star Journal, Volume 5, No. 2, Summer 1979. Extract from Wolfram von Eschenbach, Louis Guy Workley, A.J. Brown. GROUSSETR, Histoire des Crusades et du Royaume Franc de Jerusalem, 3 balls. Paris, 1934-6. HAGNMEYER, H. Labrea, Photooftheday, like trans. Turkey Reno, Paris, 1883. Philippi, Z. Adam and the Kabbalistic Tree, London, 1974. HALSBERGHE, Solid Victus, Latin, 1972. A.R.A. Genealogy of the St. Clairs of Roslyn, Edinburgh, 1835. Henderson, G.D., Chevalier Ramsey, London, 1952. The Interlinear Greek English New Testament Trans. Alfred Marshall, 2nd edit, London, 1967.
Opera discovered the mind of the prison.
F.A. William Temple, Archbishop of
Design
Canterbury,
takes advantage of
Life
the
and Letters,
different
London, 1948.
practice for this.
Lions, 5 books, best nations for Lions Against. Heresies, Trans. John Keeble, London, 1872. Yago
Human kindness and mercy.
Zealous, London, 1900.
I'm feeling
JAFSUS, Psychic Carcassonne at Leicester, Forcing Wise Gods, Carcassonne, 1867. John Roydo, Life of St. Louis in Chronicles of the Crusades, Trans. Margaret R.D. Shaw, Harmonsburg, 1976. JEANCINJFL, Les Crony, Finland, at Day World's 2 balls. Paris, 1851. Johann von Wurzburg, Description of the Holy Land by John of Wurzburg, 1160 to 1170, Trans. Aubrey Stewart, Palestine Pilgrims Text Society, Volume 5, London, 1897. Josephus, The Jewish War, Trans. T.A. Williamson, Harmonsburg, 1978. JOURDANME, G. Folklore de l'Oge, 2nd edit, Paris, 1973. Joyce D. The Jesus School, London, 1975. King, F. The Secret Rituals of the OTO, London, 1973. Klausner, J.P. Jesus of Nazareth, London, 1925. Foreign
Yosh.
trans. NJ to Root Lemonsworth 1977. Lobby's Rothschild Pleasantwood Marion or Second Edit Paris 1818. Lobby's Rothschild Born to Renless Babes Paris 1832. LACORDAIREJBH St. Mary Magdalene London 1880. Elaine L. Dictionnaire Historique de France Paris 1877. Random and Ecclesiastical History of Ireland 4 Falls Second Edit Dublin 1829. Tableau de Margella Memoirs de la Société des Arts et des Sciences de Carcassonne 3rd Essert Volume 5 Carcassonne 1937 to 40. LECOYDAI Marquet R.A. Roy René 2 Balls. Paris 1875. Least B.A. Records of the Templars in England in the 12th century. London 1935. La Forestier R. Le Franc de Connery Cultis Paris 1928. La Forestier R. Le Franc de Connery Templier et Cultis Stock Sextiot F6 Paris 1970. La Mer F. Histoire et Antiquités de la Électricité d'Orléans 2 Falls, Second Edit 1648. Leonard E.G. Introduction of Cartulaire Manuscript to Temple, Paris 1930. LEPINOIS, E. du Lettre de Louis Fouquet, son frère Nicolas Fouquet, in Archives de l'Art Français, 2nd Essert, Volume 2, Paris 1861 to 6. LEBILLAINL, Les Niebelingen Historiques, Annales du Midi, Year 49, Toulouse 1937, and Year 50, Toulouse 1938. Lily A.L. Modernism, A Record and Review, London, 1908. LICERANDG, Dossier de l'Affaire des Templiers, Paris, 1923. LOBINEAUGA, Histoire de Bretagne, 2 Balls. Paris, 1707. Loomis, R.S. Arthurian Tradition and Shirteen Detroit, New York, 1949. Loomis, R.S. The Grail, Cardiff, 1963. Lloyd, L.C. The Origins of Some Anglo-Norman Families, at C.T. Clay and G.C. Douglas, Leeds, 1951. Lucy Smith, E. Symbolist Art, London, 1977. Mabinogian, France. Jeffrey Gantz, Parmansworth, 1977. Jacobi H. Revolution in Judea, London, 1973. Madison, R.E.W. The Life of the Honorable Robert Boyle, F.R.S. London, 1969. Manuel F.E. Portrait of Isaac Newton, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1968. Marie F. Renflechetto, Etude Critique Bagnew, 1978. Merritt P. The Symbolist de la Croix de Paris, 1948. Mazieres, Aviamar Curios Affaires du Siècle, Stella du, Puig de Lacroix, Perpigan, Memoirs de la Société des Arts et des Sciences de Carcassonne, 4th Essert. Volume 4, Carcassonne, 1960 to 62. Mazieres, Aviamar, an episode Trio, and Paradox du Process Templiers, Memories de la Société des Arts et des Sciences de Carcassonne, 4th Essert, Volume 4, Carcassonne, 1960 to 62. Mazieres, Aviamar, Recherches Historiques that contains a lot.
This
Memoirs de la Société des Arts et des Sciences de Carcassonne, 4th Essert, Volume 4, Carcassonne, 1960 to 62. Mazieres, Aviamar, La Venue et la Séjour des Templiers du Roussillon à la Fondation du Siècle et Ode du Signifiance la Vallée du Roussillon. Memoirs de la Société des Arts et des Sciences de Carcassonne, 4th Essert, Volume 3, Carcassonne, 1957 to 9. Melville and Lobby Day Templiers, 2nd Edit, Paris, 1974. Mitchell M. Gnosis Day Templiers, 2 Balls, Paris, 1851. Michelle H. Sparta, Cambridge, 1964. The Nagamati Library in English, trans. By members of the Coptic Gnostic Library Project of the Institute for Antiquity and Christianity,
should be now.
James and Robinson,
It should be
1977.
Body
Mark
one.
D. Lever accusation of Colin Sexton, St. Paris, Lesbos, 1973. Nellie R. Lesbos, Paris, Toulouse, 1965. Nellie R. Dictionnaire des Sciences Juridiques College, Toulouse, 1968. Nellie R. The Philosophy du Patrice, Paris, 1978. Neil M. Lescafas in Montsegur, Paris, 1973. Nihilus S. Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, France. Victory Constant, London, 1923. NODIERC, Contes, ed. Pierre Georges Castex, Paris, 1961. NODIERC,
That guy's 97 years old?
Societies of the Army, London,
No.
1850.
97 years old. Dying.
Published anonymously. NODIERC, Voyages Pittoresques à Romantique, Scans, Lancienne, France, Normandy, Louis Paul's, Paris, 1820 to 78. Newton, J.T. Contraception, New York, 1967. Oldenburg, C. Massacre at Montsegur, London, 1961. OLRY, Topographie de la Montagne de Sion, Botmont Memoirs de la Société d'Archéologie Lorraine, 2nd Essert, Volume 10, Nancy, 1868. Or J. Lesser, God, Province, Manchester, 1915. Wort L.J.I. Money, Religio-Historical Description of His Personality, Latin, 1967. OURSELR, Leprosis Day, Empires, Paris, 1959. Bagels E. The Gnostic Gospels, London, 1980. Hank David August Maison de Lorraine, Lyons, 1966. Ali and Leska Student Ambition Politique, Nyan, 1973. PARRINDERG, Jesus in the Quran, London, 1965. Parade L. Charles de Lorraine and Howard de Brussels, Paris, 1903. Trans. Sebastian Evans as the High History of the Holy Grail, New Eden, London, 1969. PEYREFITTR, the letra secrete, la symbolisme, no. 356 Caris, April, June 1962. Phipps, W.E., The Sexuality of Jesus, New York, 1973. Phipps, W.E., Was Jesus Married? New York, 1970. Famous Wig, R, Occult Symbolism in France, Josephine Pelletin and the Salons de la Rose-Croix, London, 1976. PINGAUD, the UNS for Charles Nodier, Besançon, 1914. PKJK Bankiers, Moyenne de West Empires, Paris, 1939. Plot R, The Natural History of Staffordshire, Oxford, 1686.
I'm not angry, just disappointed. I don't think. I did not. second plumber. I fucking love this shit. Ja, shit. It's his fucking washing machine. Dishwasher, isn't it? So clear plastic holes are prone to pinholes. A good puncher can become corroded here. Save yourself this pain. I know if this happened to somebody, ruined the house. It happened right here in Irvine. This is fun. Oh, damn. That's super tall. It's funny. We need to shut this up. These are very popular ones. They got me. Yoshi. This one, this is like up. This is like up. This is like the house and up.
Leute, das ist so cool. Jetzt kann man einfach mit Wasser tappen.
Change the style, brother. Oh, guys, this is good. Here's Frank. Alright, Okay, then that's something I've done. Oh my god. I know right where that is. Really? I would say Michigan is a Florida and is very, very accurate. something about what is that thing? A little bit, type everything that really was. What the fuck? Where's the ghost? What's this crazy up the phone? That's your little Loki. You can really get hurt with that. Bring things are just like fucking Earbuds don't play. Rumble like pasta. Hide there in the sun. Sun rays. Toshi!
still in that house? Yeah. I still am. Did you have to do all the rewiring and stuff too? I did have the house rewired, but I didn't do it. Well, you have that's almost 100-year-old house. Wow. Yes. But he saved your life. Yes, he did. I love that. And he still hangs about and does interesting things for fun, I guess, because eternity is a really long time. It sure is. Thanks, Kim. Thanks. Appreciate you being part of the program, and appreciate all of you being part of the program. We're going to continue with open lines in a moment, but it's just a fantastic series of stories. You could probably write another book based on these ghost stories that keep coming and coming and coming and coming. So those of you on hold, we're going to do our best to get all of you back. When we come back in a moment on Coast to Coast, I want to tell you a little bit of what's in store for tomorrow's program. For the first couple hours, Doc Wallach from CriticalHealthNews.com joins us, and he'll be talking about the ways to stay healthy during these tough times. And he does a great job for us. I truly like it. We'll take calls with him earlier to make sure you're part of that. But Bill Bean joins us, an expert on, he's a professional exorcist. He's not a priest, but he's a professional exorcist. And he works on demonic possessions. He's a reverend type, but he's not a priest. And it's one of those other religions who perform exorcisms, and he's one of the good ones. So Bill Bean back with us on Coast to Coast. So we've got a series of great shows for you all week long. So we will be back in a moment. Simply don't touch your dial on Coast to Coast Day. On a warm summer Ohio night, the week is high, full and bright. Four boys on bikes on the gravel road, just a mile or two from heaven. Oh, it certainly was an eerie place, burned by the look on each brother's face. Summer nights made a mournful sound. We did star likes to take a look around. So far off the beaten path, hard to find even with a map. But make it out alive, you'll need some luck if you ever go to the cemetery named Love. The crickets chirped and the fireflies flew. Deep in the woods, you could hear the hoot of a great horned owl with its lonely call. And on the distance, A-S-I, news of him, on the net, and when it breaks. I'm Phil Hewitt for the KFI 24-hour newsroom. The people organizing the effort to recall Kevin De Leon will need to collect more than 21,000 valid signatures to trigger a recall election. Once the city clerk certifies the process, the organizers will have 120 days to gather those signatures from registered voters in De Leon's county. The Federal Reserve is meeting today and Wednesday, and another interest rate hike is likely. Mortgage rates passed the 7% threshold last week. The Fed has been bumping rates higher in an effort to combat inflation. The Powerball jackpot is now $1.2 billion after no ticket matched all six winning numbers on Monday. But no ticket sold in Big City, LA did match 5 of 6. It's worth more than $790 grand. Southland weather from KFI overnight lows in the 50s and mostly cloudy for your Tuesday. About a 30% chance of rain by nighttime. During the day, upper 60s for your highs near the coast, low 70s inland. Right now, 64 in Fountain Valley and Dana Point, West LA 61, with Woodland Hills 59 degrees. We leave local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Phil Hewitt. In the Jamaica the Southeast 101 northbound at Lancashire, we have a crash. The NCHC picking up the right lane there. You watch for the lane as you approach this area. And we have good news. Earlier crash that was on the 5 northbound at First Street has been cleared to the right shoulder. Watch for looking with the lake in that stretch. And in Corona, anyone eastbound connected to E15 northbound, we have a crash blocking that transition road. Watch for the lake. KMI in the sky. Let's get you there faster. I'm Brian Van. The Big J podcast digs into one important news story from Bloomberg reporters in the U.S. and around the world, breaking down stories about money, politics, the economy, and technology to tell you what happened, what it means, and why it matters. Is the numbers thing interesting? If you had not had a faithful capture at the copy machine, you might not have had the coronavirus vaccine as quickly as you did. Yeah, I think that's true. Listen to the Big Take on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Hello, I'm Jonathan Quinn, founder of Ritter Hill Plumbing and Air. Last week, registration check for only $77. Call 866-DRINK77. And during the months of November and December, my team at River Hero will install a carbon monoxide monitor for free in every home we service as a thank you for your business. Call 866-DRINK77. That's 866-DRINK77. Or visit us at riverhero.com. Thank you. KFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk.
Nobody's clean. Nobody's clean in any of this. Well, if nobody's clean, then nobody's dirty, right?
Like when Syndrome said in The Incredibles, no, if everyone's super, then no one is. Jerry and Janet.
Exactly.
Right. Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KFI. Matter of fact, my first guy's a beaver. The first time I got my car, for some reason there was a glitch in it. All it would do was talk to me in German, and I screamed, you're doing this on purpose. Bill Handle, mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI. That's the only thing I ever win is dancing at the spread. If I would have bet it, lost. They say it's a racetrack. When Conway has money on a horse, the flag is up. You lose. The Tim Conway Jr. Show. Weekdays at 6 on KFI. KFI AM 640. Call the wild card line at 818-501-4109. The first time caller line is 818-501-4721. To talk control free from east of the Rockies, call 800-825-5033. From west of the Rockies, toll free. Call 800-618-8255. To reach George via Skype, use Skype name George97313. Send George a text message anytime at 818-298-6521. This is Ghost to Ghost AM with George Norrie.
As I was saying, on our next Coast to Coast program, Doc Wallach joins us from criticalhealthnews.com for a couple hours, taking your calls, of course, giving you health tips. And then Exorcist Bill Dean joins us to talk about ridding the world of evil, demonic spirits. YouTube is at 516,000 members. Free to sign up. If you haven't signed up yet, go to YouTube and type in Coast to Coast AM official.
Yeah, this is really great to get interviews of recent guest shows. We're also adding some special compilations, so check it out. All you need to do, like George just said, go to coasttocoastam.com. Go to the top, there's a little YouTube icon. Boom, hit that. It is free to subscribe.
Like they have 525,000 people by Christmas, we can do it. We're at 516,000 right now. Here's something for you to de-stress yourself.
If stress gets you down, and maybe you're fatigued or moody, and would like to start the day with more energy, then you would like to relax in the evening throughout the night while losing weight, we have something for you. Elevate and Accelerate. Dr. Anna Buder explains more.
So what is it about Elevate that really makes it so powerful? Number one, 4.5 sodium phytonutrients. They get estimated 4 something that would look at it as the accelerator, looking at salty plants. We're allowing our gut to lightly detox. You're going to actually see an increase in energy just from that. But then there's also the probiotic. There's the prebiotic, and there's the enzyme blend that's restoring that gut health. So it's cleansing, that's restoring it, that's releasing that serotonin, that dopamine, to be able to reduce anxiety, to help to reduce that chronic fatigue, to help to increase the immune system of our body as well. I have found that just with these 3 capsules, with people that I am seeing are having phenomenal success.
Why accelerate and elevate now with a great discount? George's Power Pack includes 90 capsules in total, plus a free gift. These slim, delicious, refreshing weight loss tablets that mix with water. Learn more and order now at healthylooking.com or 800-394-9930. Make the change for the better now with all-day energy and focus. A relaxing evening plus weight loss with George's Power Pack at healthylooking.com or 800-394-9930. Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping American heroes ever since. When a first responder or military service member does not come home and young children are left behind, Tunnel to Towers pays the mortgage on the family home to lift the financial burden and bring stability. For catastrophically injured veterans and first responders, Tunnel to Towers builds mortgage-free smart homes, giving our most severely injured heroes the ability to live more independent lives in that special house. Through our veteran homelessness program, Tunnel to Towers is providing housing and services to homeless veterans across America. More than 500 in 2022 alone. Because all the veterans who honorably served in our country, whether in peacetime or war, deserve our nation's gratitude. People who put their lives on the line for our country, our communities, and community your help now more than ever. Help America's heroes and their families join Tunnel to Towers on this mission to do good in their honor. Donate just $11 a month at T2T.org. That's the letter T, the number 2, the letter T. T2T.org. There's no sign of identity theft slowing down. And why should it? More than $14 billion was stolen from identity theft victims last year alone. To cyber criminals, it's a success story. For the rest of us, it's a wake-up call. Your personal info is in more places now than ever. And all that exposure can make it dangerously easy to steal your identity. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself by monitoring your identity and alerting you to threats you could miss on your own. If you become a victim of identity theft, a U.S.-based LifeLock restoration specialist will be dedicated to your case and work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions and all businesses, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com and use promo code NEWS. That's promo code NEWS to save up to 25% off your first year.
This is Vanessa.
Happy Halloween. I wonder if he was talking about the closet door. Let's go back to the phones. Our final segment of Ghost to Ghost. Susan's with us in Florida. Welcome to the show. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Mr. Dillard. How are you?
I'm great. I hope you are too.
Doing okay? Staying up really late tonight. Thank you.
It is. It's about 4:41 over there.
It's still going.
Oh, yeah. What do you got for us?
Kind of a neat story.
Okay.
In the middle of the 1990s, I got my first computer and I went online. And AOL was like the only game in town there for email.
That's right.
You remember all the chat rooms that was real popular and the AOL pen pals?
Oh, yeah.
My mom's parents came from Ukraine about 100 years ago. And never heard anything about Ukrainian in the house. We were always following my dad's Irish side. So anyway, when I went online, I was finally able to find something out about your phone. And I met this guy, Mike. And we became friends. We used to chat. A couple of years later, we decided it was time for us to meet. So he drove down from Yonkers, New York to Delaware. So I was living there then. And we hit it off. I would drive up there sometimes to visit. He would come down sometimes. And eventually we wound up going to Spain.
Really?
Which is really cool. Yeah, in 2000. I just was texting back and forth with one of my cousins over there. A little while ago, so they're okay. So anyway, Mike was really involved with the Ukrainian church and the camp. And they had this program where they were trying to collect used medical equipment when companies or facilities were getting rid of stuff. They would box it up, put it in a one of those shipping things.
Containers.
Yeah, they would ship it in a container, and then somebody would go and check to make sure that they knew how to use it, and then they would check. They made sure that they didn't sell it or they weren't using it wrong. So anyway, he was involved with that. Just a really good-hearted person. So about 6 months after we came back from our trip, he came down one weekend. I was having a Christmas Eve family open house, and he helped me clean up my house and stuff and get everything ready and hosted the party. And it was really nice. So anyway, he had to go home and do Christmas with his mom and family up there. So he left. And the last thing he said to me was, I've got my day off and you've got to work. Like, thanks a lot now. So anyway, then he sent me an email, but I guess when he got home saying he was okay and he made it all right. Monday lunchtime, I get a phone call from his mom. He never called me at work. He said, I'm calling to tell you that you won't be seeing him again. I'm like, what are you talking about? Did he leave town? Did he go somewhere? Finally, she said, he died. He had had a massive heart attack after Christmas dinner. So, I went up to the funeral, and I was having a really hard time with it.
Oh, I believe it, sure.
I was grieving, crying, like I would hear it like a song.
But it sounds like you really like the guy.
I did. I went to, we went and saw Titanic together. I mean, if I would do that song from Titanic, I would start crying.
Great song, too, by the way.
Top of the hat, I would cry. So anyway, it was an icky day in February. And I went home from work, and I was like not hungry. Just too bereaved to do anything.
Rest and everything else.
Yep. So I jumped in my PJs, climbed into bed. So anyway, I had a cat.
Easy to get it out of the way.
Cat and I were like rooted like from the side of the bed. And I was crying. I just couldn't help it.
Well, that's expected.
So anyway, I hear his voice.
Came to visit you, didn't he?
He did. He's like, Jesus, don't cry, I'm okay.
Does he come to you anymore?
So never again.
Well, that's a great story, though, Shoes. Thanks. Next up, we go to Justin in Alberta, Canada. Welcome to the program. Hi, Justin. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Noy. Thanks for having me on your show. Been a long time listener.
Thank you, sir.
And anyways, I'll tell you about the first time I ever got scratched by an entity. And let me tell you, they really do burn. When investigators say they burn, they ain't kidding.
Wow. Where, are your back all over the place?
No, this one happened straight through my shoe, and it ended up on my ankle, and I felt the burning. And I took the shoe off, and there's some fresh scratch marks, and there were three of them right on my ankle. I had to put ice on it to calm the burning down. God. But this happened while I was going to a friend's place, and they just dropped me. And so they had their equipment, like for musicians, so they had their amps and stuff all set up in the basement. And they wanted to show me what the setup was like. So we went downstairs, and all of a sudden, that's when I started feeling the burning on my ankle, and I thought something, my foot was rubbing up against something, which is impossible because they're brand new shoes at the time. So I sat down, took them off, and there's three fresh scratch marks going up the back of my ankle on my right foot. And that's never happened before, and ever since then, I still get scratched from time to time showing up on me. And they're crescent shaped or they're three left behind.
Do you think it's like a ghost animal? Or
It could also, well, you think three scratches are kind of a demonic activity too. It could be a demon following me, but you never know in that sort of case.
but if that's the worst that's happened to you, you've been pretty lucky, Justin.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, thanks for that story. Appreciate it. Next up, Derek's with us in Idaho. Welcome to the show. Hello, Derek.
Thank you, George. And Tom, I had an incident in 1973 when I was 12 years old. I was living in Lewistown, Montana, and my best friend David lived on the west side of town, and he lived about a half a block from the cemetery. Sometimes we'd ride our bikes over the cemetery and just explore around. One day we were at the cemetery, and I stopped at a mausoleum. And this mausoleum was above ground, maybe 7 or 8 feet tall, and it was big enough to hold maybe 2 caskets. So I walked around the mausoleum, and there was no door, and I found a small opening on one side where the border had come out that sealed it. And it was only maybe a little bit bigger than a pencil. And I was wondering how far in the hole would go. So I decided to get a piece of wire and roll it and put wire in and see how far it would go. So a few days later, I spent the night at David's house, and we got up after midnight, and we sneaked out of the house, and parents didn't know it, and we rode our bikes to the cemetery with a piece of wire and our flashlights. And when we went straight to the mausoleum, and once there, David started looking around at the headstones, and I started pushing the wire in the opening, and the wire went in freely for about a foot or so, and all of a sudden it felt like something was holding on the wire. And it took me a second to realize that I was not pushing on it, and I yelled to David to come help me hold the wire as it was pulled into the mausoleum. And it was being pulled in kind of aggressively, and David came over and helped me hold the wire for a few seconds, and probably after 7 or 8 seconds or so, I told David to let go, and we let go of that wire, and it continued. He pulled into the mausoleum until it disappeared.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. As a kid, you know, I was kind of interested in paranormal stuff like that, and I didn't know what the word meant. And to this day, I never told my parents about it. I've always told my wife, and I've always wanted to tell it on Coast to Coast for the last couple of years, but I never did. But when you just did this time,
Derek, thanks for that. You're lucky you didn't pull you all the way in. Let's go to Cher in Grants Pass, Oregon. Hi, Cher.
oh, hi, how are you?
Great. Thanks for holding so long.
Oh, no problem. Well, my story, took place in England, outside of York, in a little surprised. And then I said,